Otherwise, yeah. Hello, we are live. I have no idea if anyone's out there listening. It says 0. So it's just me and you, Vera, at the moment. We'll see if anybody shows up. Now it says 5. So if you're listening, Merry Christmas.
Well, I didn't
And
want you to be all alone, so I thought I'd come for a little bit.
yeah. And there appear to be some people actually. Yeah, there we go. Matt's here. Miggins. John's here.
Oh, hold on. I'm having double. Okay.
Good to see you guys. Merry Christmas and so on. Yeah, I was just saying to Vero, I am a Buddhist and I'm single and I don't have children. So Christmas doesn't mean that much to me at the moment. And Vero has only got her husband and 4 dogs.
And lots of lights.
And a very laid back Christmas and lots of lights. So yeah, we've got time to hang out on Christmas Eve. I totally didn't expect anybody to turn up, really. Because I thought everybody has something to do on Christmas Eve, but I didn't. So I thought hanging out with a couple of bookish people might be fun.
Yeah.
Who else is here? It says there's 4 or 5 people. If you're listening out there in internet land, say hi in the chat. I'm curious who's around. What did you do, John and Miggins, for Christmas so far? And why have you got time on Christmas Eve? Are you also an orphan like me?
You don't have to be an orphan.
No. I mean, it sounds weird to say I'm an orphan because you always think of orphans as being very young, but both of my parents have indeed died. So technically I'm an orphan, but I became an orphan like in my mid 40s. So
right.
Yeah, not exactly.
Yeah, mine have passed away as well.
Yeah. Christmas Eve is just chill. Very good. Same here. I've been playing a video game the last couple of hours. Urza, however you say it. She already told me that once, but I don't remember exactly, and I probably never was pronouncing it the right way. Good to see you again. However you pronounce your name. Navo's here.
Never.
Cool. Good to see you, Navo. Undead Samurai. I keep seeing that. That keeps popping up in different places, and it's got undead and it's got samurais, so it's kind of inevitable that I will eventually read it. But I haven't gotten to it yet. I am reading samurai stuff. I'm working my way through Lone Wolf and Cub, the manga.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to sprinkle in with other things, but it's not one you sit down and really read because it's just episodes where basically the samurai is traveling around with a baby carriage and a kid in it, like a 3-year-old kid.
Okay.
And it's his son. And there's no real story. He hires himself out as an assassin. There are these short episodes, which are like 10 or 15 pages each. Each one is him assassinating someone, but each one is sort of set up differently, and he's tricky and
sounds a bit like The Mandalorian.
Yeah, the Mandalorian owes a lot to Lone Wolf and Cub. Like this Lone Wolf and Cub came out in the 90s. So, I mean, yeah, he's traveling around with a cute little creature and he's hiring himself out to do stuff. And there isn't that much story, really. It's just episodic little things. Eventually, I've heard that eventually there is a story that, like an ongoing kind of story that develops. But at the moment, it's just episodic.
Okay.
What are you reading, Vera?
I just finished my my ongoing reread of C.J. Sherry, Betrayer, books 12
of the Foreigner series.
Yeah.
See, yeah. I started that years ago, and really liked it. And for some
Mm.
reason got diverted. I think I read 2 or 3 books and didn't continue, but it's really, really cool. Like
It's
the
I would
humans meeting an
recommend it.
alien culture is
Yes,
it's really
it's
well done.
definitely, I would say, diplomacy as a superpower
Yeah. Yeah.
of Bren. But I mean, I did read up to book 18. I started
Okay.
5 years ago, and then in my group on Goodreads, we doing it. So I thought, well, I might as well.
Oh, okay.
The audios are really good.
Yeah.
But it's Cherry is definitely of the school of going very, very slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Although the
really
Chunner series goes relatively fast. There's a fair bit of action and drama and stuff like that, but the Foreigner I remember being a lot more slow and thoughtful
Yes.
and talky and
Plus, the first book is probably the worst.
yeah.
It is a stumbling block, really. But as soon
Okay.
as you go over it, and I always recommend go for the audiobooks. It's really, really well done. It's a
Okay.
bit
Cool.
well, it's a bit like Hob in the sense
Yeah.
of the world becomes real. She doesn't do it the same way, but it's the same level of detailing, and she really makes you go through the whole steps bit by bit. And at the beginning, it's to do with linguistics as well, which I love. But
I see if it sells me to reread what I've read and read the rest, because I remember reading it and liking the first book, and being kind of fascinated with this deployment. Wait just a sec. I need to yell at my cat.
Hi, Anita.
Okay. Fitz has a really weird habit. When I feed Fitz, first of all, she freaks the fuck out until she actually gets the food in her mouth, and then she inhales it in seconds, and then she starts yowling as if she's in heat. And she's fixed. She cannot be in heat. But she just, that kind of, really loud yowl. And she just does that until I yell at her, and then she stops. So, yeah, I don't know. She just wants everyone to know that she ate, and she's hopefully satisfied. I don't know. I feed her actually quite a lot, so she better be satisfied.
I did have a cat.
Hello, lots of people I didn't expect to see on a Christmas Eve. Thornall's here. Anita's here.
Yeah.
Rogue's here. Having a loose Christmas. Religion and spirituality. I mean, I'm not religious. I am spiritual, but my spirituality doesn't overlap with Christmas at all because I'm a Buddhist. Heidi. Hello, Heidi. It's funny, actually. I was thinking of you, Heidi, and who else is here? I don't think anyone else is here. People that sent me questions, because I just today cut my sort of end of year thoughts plan for next year video, and I did the viewer questions and answer in that video. And Heidi sent me a question or two. Chinese food and movies.
Sounds good.
Finishing up the Belgariad. Why are you reading the Belgariad? I mean, I haven't reread it. I read it. I devoured it, all of it, when I was a teenager. And I have a strong feeling that if I tried to reread it now, it would just feel too much like a Tolkien ripoff and would probably bore the hell out of me. I'm not sure. But I remember that it was quite a derivative kind of thing, like Shannara, Belgariad, beginning of the Wheel of Time. It's all like, I think all the publishers back then were like, we need another Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So everybody.
How's your reread going?
Doing that. Lord of the Rings. I finished the Fellowship, and the plan is to do it relaxed. So I'm taking kind of a break. I read, what did I read? I read an Elric story, and did a video about it. And now I'm actually thinking I'm gonna finish Tawny Man and then read The Two Towers.
Okay.
And I don't know. I used to not care at all. I just thought a chunky book by a good author was just lots of good stuff to read. And now I look at some chunky books and I'm like, man, that feels like a commitment.
Yeah. It depends who writes it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that if Hobb wrote 10,000 pages in one book, I would read it and enjoy it. That's not the problem. It's just, I don't know. I'm sort of in a mood maybe not to be stuck with one book for that long, no matter how good it is or how good the author is. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's why my Malazan reread stalled, because I got to Reaper's Gale, which is the biggest book up to that point. It's I think 1,000 pages or something like that. And I just looked at it and went, oh, really? I want to read something thinner.
Well, you can have, I usually try to have, if I have a big tome, to have audiobook, something lighter, short, something small that you can just.
That's kind of my manga plan at the moment. That's why, or what I'm doing with manga. I've got Lone Wolf and Cub, and I've got Attack on Titan, one of the omnibuses, which is the first three volumes in one chunky tome.
I haven't read those, but I've watched the anime.
I haven't watched the anime. Is it on a streaming service?
Okay, it was a few years ago, but I think so.
I couldn't find it. I need to look harder, maybe. If someone in the chat knows where Attack on Titan is on a streaming service, I have most of them. Although the selection in Germany is different than the selection in America. There are things that Americans get on Netflix, for example, that aren't on Netflix in Germany because of international licensing laws and whatever.
Should be similar to the UK, though, shouldn't
it? I mean, it's just a completely different country, and it's the EU, which the UK isn't anymore. So
don't get me started on that.
No, it's a bit of a disaster. Everybody over here was just like, "What are you guys doing?"
Yeah, and half the population here as well was. Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah. Rogue is making his way through Ship of Magic. Ship of Magic is so good. I mean, the whole Live Ship trilogy is just stellar. It's so good. I read it not that long ago, and I read the whole trilogy this year, or reread for the third or fourth time. But it's so good. It's so good. And
I'm starting in Jan.
And if you're in Ship of Magic, Rogue, you haven't got anywhere near the best part of the trilogy. The last book is bonkers. It's bonkers good, but it's also what the fuck bonkers. I mean, there's so much stuff that happens in it, and so many, all the disparate. It's totally different than the Farseer trilogy. Yeah, it's not first person, and it's jumping POVs. So you've got all these different sort of disparate storylines going on, different people all over the place doing different things, and it all kind of comes together in the last book in a really epic manner. It's really good. It's really, really good. Bodies. Yeah, okay. I was forgetting the name, but I watched Bodies, and it's very interesting.
Is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's awesome, but it's got some really interesting ideas. It's got a sort of a time travel-ish thing going on, and murder mysteries in 3 different times or 4 different times. Yeah, no, she's got the dates there. It's really good. It's worth watching. But yeah, I haven't actually started Fool's Fate yet. I've still been looking at it and thinking maybe I'll read the second Amber novel. It's only 100-something pages. But I think I probably should just stop postponing getting into another awesome book. I mean, that's stupid.
Just go for what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem, is I don't know what I want right now.
Yeah. I've got a few things. I usually read This Was the Night Before Christmas, the poem. So I've got that set up for tomorrow morning. I usually read A Christmas Carol, but I think this year I'm going to read The Chimes by Dickens.
Oh, okay.
And then...
Hi, Jared.
Hi. Then what I'm supposed to start is...
Okay.
Curse of the Mist, right? I'm going to try it.
Another insanely chunky, long series, but I really want to read it. I've heard so many good things about Jenny Wirtz. I read what's it called? To Ride Hell's Cousin.
Yeah.
Standalone by her. I thought it would be a good taste test. And I was mixed on it.
Okay.
The first half of it was awesome. And the second half of it was kind of boring and repetitive. The basically the whole second half of the story is two characters are being chased, and they run and they get in a fight when the things catch up with them, and then they run and they get in a fight when the things catch up with them, and then they run and they get in a fight when the things catch up with them. And it's just, I kept waiting for something that was different than that to happen, and it just kind of didn't, you know.
Okay.
So I was mixed. I mean, I could see that she's obviously a good author. Like she writes well, no question. But I don't know, it almost felt like two different books. And one had a really interesting structure and pacing, and the other one didn't.
I've got that one as well to try. I'm quite interested to see her style because she's an artist as well. So I'm quite intrigued to see how she meshes her artistic eye.
She's not only an artist, it sounds like she's kind of super talented in lots of different things. Like she's an equestrian expert, and she's done a lot of hiking and like real nature person, it sounds like, which I think are all good qualifications for a fantasy author, because that's usually what you're dealing with, is lots of horses and generally lots of traveling through nature. So I imagine she'll be pretty good. I'm surprised there are so many people here. Don't you guys have lives and families and Christmas Eve shit to do?
Well, they're being kind.
What are you doing here? Are you just taking pity on me because I don't have all of those things to do? Rogue says he remembers liking the anime for Attack on Titan better than the manga. Okay, and that's because he dislikes the artwork. Okay, that is the exact opposite of me. I looked at the artwork, and it's obviously not typical manga, but that's maybe what I like about it. It's a very probably nobody here has heard of this comic. It's a Western comic called Cerebus.
Yeah.
And Cerebus is a barbarian aardvark. And the whole thing started out as kind of a joke. It was kind of a parody of like Conan or something. And it turned into an extremely serious and very philosophical comic that is like this long. He put out these phone book sized volumes. Originally, I think it was normal issues, like small comic issues, but the way I read it was in these phone books. And the artwork in Attack on Titan reminds me of Cerebus a little bit. Cerebus had a very minimalistic, lots of fine lines and lots of open space and stuff like that. And Attack on Titan's artwork kind of reminds me of that. So maybe that's what I like about it. I'm not sure about the story yet. I mean, there's a lot of mystery to the story. The basic idea,
if I remember it.
Yeah, I mean, all I've got is the basic idea so far. It's probably in the future. Maybe it's Earth, maybe it's not. And then there are these huge humanoids that basically look like people, but they're kind of freaky horror-ish people, but they're 15 meters tall and they eat humans. And humans live in a walled city to keep these things out. And the book starts when another one turns up that is much bigger and can see over the wall and is kicking holes in the wall to let the other ones in to eat the humans. Yeah. It was fun and then got bogged down in Sims personal stuff.
Okay.
Is that a typo or were you actually playing Sims? I don't know. I was playing the video game with maybe the dumbest name in the world, Mount and Blade Bannerlord. No, Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. Right. I think that's it. Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. Ah, okay. He meant Cerebus. Yeah, so Cerebus was really cool until it got bogged down in Sims's personal stuff. Dave Sims is the creator. And he's weird. He's really weird. He's got some very unpleasant views about women. He's got some very questionable political views. And he started bringing it in towards like the last quarter of Cerebus, and it ruined the whole thing. Yeah, not so cool. Dan's here. He's building a game console chair system. Okay. That's what happens when you're a dad at Christmas. You shouldn't have given your kids a game console chair system. Whatever.
Sounds pretty good though.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could do with a new gaming chair if you want to come over, Dan. I can't promise I could pay the flight, but yeah, I've been meaning to order a new chair. This one's kind of falling apart a little bit. It's kind of crappy. What is everybody reading over their Christmas break? Hopefully everyone has a good chunk of time off. I have a massive chunk of time off because I quit my job recently.
Okay.
And my last real day was Thursday. I have half a day I still have to work on Wednesday, which is basically just saying goodbye to the designer in my team. And I'm planning on having January off.
Okay.
In my position doing what I do in the software industry, it's not very hard to find a job. So, and people at my level, there's just not that many of them. So I'm not really worried too much. So I'm just going to relax and focus on my channel and reading and that kind of stuff in January.
Okay.
Oh, Dan. So your boy got a PS5 and you're stealing his Xbox. If you have an Xbox, we need to exchange credentials because I have an Xbox. And we could play some multiplayer stuff when time zones collide. Or align, I guess is probably the better way to put it. So what is everybody in the chat reading for their Christmas break?
Oh, I'm reading something else. Audio.
What are you also reading?
It's a LGBT fantasy romance. Power and Bound by Freya Mask. She's really good. There's actually quite a few LGBT authors that are really good, and they create some really good fantasy worlds as well.
Okay, cool. I have not, to my knowledge anyway, read that many LGBT authors. You never know who is one and maybe isn't that open about it, but as far as the ones that are loud and proud, I don't know that I've read. Oh, no. Well, no, I read a book by a non-binary person who, at least I think, no, actually, we talked about it because I loved her book, and I contacted her. And because of some of her social media posts, I wrote her, and I was very careful. I was like, I'm just going to come out and say it, like, because you never know nowadays. Like, what kind of pronouns are you using, and how do you identify? And she was like, "Oh yeah, no, you saw that, and no, that was about a friend, and I'm a she, totally born as, identify as, interested in men, totally straight." But yeah, no, so I don't know that I've read any that I'm aware of anyway.
I think I was lucky because I'm part of this private group on Goodreads for the last 7 years.
Simon Jimenez is gay. I did not know that. Okay. So yeah, I've read Simon Jimenez. Yeah, sorry, you're part of a group on Goodreads.
Yes, and they're very inclusive. And so we've all been introduced to quite a wide range of reads and authors, which was really good because it really opens your eyes and educates you, but at the same time entertains, because there's some really good authors.
I've got it kind of, I mean, I'm trying very hard to mood read and not define too strictly what I'm going to read when and whatever, but I kind of have it in the back of my head that I would like to at least read more books by authors who are not straight white men, whether that means straight women or LGBT or whatever. Just there are an overwhelming number of straight white men writing in fantasy and science fiction. Seems maybe even more so in science fiction, or maybe that's just my perception. But yeah, it would be good to get away from that a little bit and get a little more.
I mean, in science fiction, a lot of the big names were actually women using men's names.
That's true. I didn't know that Andre Norton was a woman until very recently, actually, because Tori was talking about wanting to read some Andre Norton because she wants to read more women authors. And I was like, what? Andre? Andre is a woman? Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I may have read a lot of it and just never looked into the author and not even known.
Call of Duty.
Evie's playing Call of Duty for Christmas Eve, as you do. I was also playing video games until this started, so no shame there. Bret Easton Ellis is. Are you saying Bret Easton Ellis is a woman or Bret Easton Ellis is gay? I don't know. I'm pretty sure Bret Easton Ellis is a man, so I guess Rogue is saying that he is a gay man. I don't know. So Dan is finishing Howling Dark. I so want to get into Sun Eater. I like it, just seems so up my alley. And every time I listen to Christopher Rocchio talk, I'm like, you're talking, all he ever talks about is stuff I love. Like, he's a massive Dune fan. He's a massive Gene Wolfe fan. You know, he's constantly, every time I hear him talk, I'm like, I have to read your book or books. Anitha is reading KJ Parker, of course, you Alan fangirl, and Forest of Enchantments by Chitla Banerjee, Diva Kaluni. Okay, I keep seeing that name come up, and have not read anything by them.
Evie, you've got an arc of that. Oh.
The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden.
I do want to read that.
And Emily Wilson's translation of the Iliad. I have Green's translation of the Iliad was recommended to me, but I haven't read it yet. I've read the Iliad, but I haven't read that translation of it yet.
I've got Emily Wilson's, is it the Odyssey one she did a few years back. So I've got that one. But yes, I do want to read those two.
Okay. So yeah, Bret Easton Ellis is gay. Sexuality is a huge theme in his books. I don't think I've read maybe a really long time ago, and I've forgotten it. But I don't think I've read any Ellis. Anita's the loyalist. Yeah, I mean, how Alan inspires such fanatical loyalty in his viewers. I really wish I could do that. I don't. Maybe I just need time. He's been doing this a lot longer than I have. But I mean, people are coming to the Sunday pub on Christmas Eve, which totally surprises me. I literally expected to be sitting here for like half an hour by myself, waiting for someone to turn up, and then I would just start reading and pretend it was sprints. But Vero said she joined, and you guys are on screen. Is that an evil laugh, Anita, or is that just is that like a minion kind of Alan minion laugh, or plans got waylaid due to COVID? What plans? What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about, Jared. You mean your Christmas plans? You got COVID? Somebody in your family got COVID? What happened? I hope everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured Anita. Evil minion laugh. Rogue's already been to the pub. Yeah, you're playing into the stereotype of being Irish, Rogue. But yeah,
I bet that was something nice.
I totally can't blame you. If I lived in Ireland, the times I've been in Ireland, I spent a lot of time in Irish pubs, proper actual Irish pubs, and oh my god, I had some good times in pubs in Dublin. Christmas Eve plans. Sick. Okay. Are you sick?
I hope Who's not. Sick?
Sister told. Okay, Heidi, you need to post all of your sister's recommendations. The Dark and Sinner. I'd never watched either of those. Interesting. Okay, so Rogue isn't an absolutely stereotypical Irishman. That's good. Yeah, you don't want to. My best friend in Ireland is a stereotypical Irishman, but he got off the drink. But he's an alcoholic. He lived in the pub for many years, like literally lived in the pub. I mean, in the pub all day, and he would pass out, and they would put him to sleep in the corner. And he recovered, which is awesome, and he's totally dry now, and very, very relaxed about it, but very clear about it, which is awesome. I'm super proud of him. Every time I see him, I'm just like, dude, you're hanging out with all these people and they're drinking. Isn't that difficult? And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of over it now.
Oh.
Warm Hands of Ghosts is not great. Okay.
Not bad, but not great. Oh.
Okay. According to Evie. But Evie knows all. Evie turned the entire world onto The Spear Cuts Through Water. So
she does.
Evie has taste.
I do have to read those. I do want to try Simon Jimenez next year.
Catherine Arden. Okay. Oh, The Dark. Yeah. I did watch The Dark. And it's not bad. Yeah, that's right. The Sinner is a dark detective show, 4 seasons. Okay. I love detective shows, so might be worth watching. I wish basically that they would just make Bosch one a week for the rest of forever. Like, I just loved Bosch, and it's a bit slow for when it comes out. There just isn't that much of it. You can binge it pretty quickly.
Okay.
But if you like sort of a grumpy detective who actually isn't just the stereotype alcoholic with no respect for authority, he's got no respect for authority, but he has a daughter, and he's got a family thing going on, and it's actually really, really good.
Osa is reading The Hound of Baskervilles. It's really good.
Oh man, I read that. I borrowed that from my school library when I was in high school. They had I think they had 1 or maybe it was 2 volumes, everything, all the Sherlock Holmes stories. And I borrowed both of them and just chewed through them twice. I love the Sherlock stories.
Actually, the first Sherlock novel, Neil Gaiman wrote a novella based on that, but also with influence of Lovecraft Cthulhu, and it is brilliant.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to remember what that was called.
That definitely sounds like something I would be interested in reading. Especially because
I just remembered loving it because it took from both sides. I'm checking in my list. Where is it?
Oza, what do you do that you have to read The Hound of Baskervilles for work? I'm having a hard time imagining what kind of job that would possibly be. That's right, Dan. Not the spear that cuts through water.
I can find it.
Just the spear cuts through water. Yes.
I'll try and find it and let you know.
Oza says it's called, I think she's talking about the book, A Study in Emerald?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
It's really good.
Let me just quickly go to Amazon and see if Amazon in Germany has it.
It is an audio as well, I think.
I love Neil Gaiman and I love Sherlock Holmes. And I'm pretty fond of Lovecrafty stuff as well. So
The Study in Scarlet becomes The Study in Emerald. And the way he picks, obviously, if you've read A Study in Scarlet, you're thinking, okay, it's really good.
Okay, they've only got it in hardcover used. So I guess it wasn't super successful and popular and whatever. But yeah, something to look at.
It might be in another. I think it's part of Fragile Things.
Okay. Yep, I have seen Fragile Things around.
I think it might be part of that one. Yes, it is. That's why I couldn't see it immediately.
Things. Yeah, okay. The Amazon Germany's got the paperback of that. No problem. Boom. In fact, I think it's already on my wish list because I thought Neil Gaiman short stories. Awesome. I'll take that. Oza is an English and Spanish teacher. Okay. In Sweden. Hence the name with a circle over the A. Weirdo.
Don't diss accents.
Don't diss accents.
I have an accent.
Yeah, I've heard. Who was talking about Robert McCammon recently? I was watching a bunch of BookTube videos. Was it Jimmy Nuts? No, I think it was Josh, Red Fury Books. Yeah, it sounds like Robert McCammon's really good. It's funny. I actually don't know that I've ever really read a detective story. I mean, other than Sherlock Holmes a long time ago. I watch a lot of detective TV, like anything I can find, but I haven't read much. So I'm curious to read it. I read something. Have I got it here? No, I read something totally out of sci-fi and fantasy. Finished it last week. Moon Palace by Paul Auster, which was a reread. Paul Auster is one of my favorite authors ever, and he does not write fantasy or science fiction. He writes, people call him, like, he's been called the best American postmodern author or novelist. His stories have a lot to do with the search for meaning or creating meaning in lives, and there tend to be a lot of really bizarre coincidences in
Didn't he
his
write New
novels.
York trilogy?
Yes, that was his first
Yeah.
popular. It wasn't his first published book, but it was his first that sort of got his name out there, took off. I'm not crazy about the New York trilogy. I mean, it's not bad, but he's written so many better things since then. Moon Palace, I would say, is one of my. I would say it's probably my favorite Paul Auster, and I've read almost everything he's written. And he's done some really annoying postmodern meta way up his own ass kind of stuff where I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. But most of his stuff is much more a straight novel, but with interesting and weird things. Some of his books are almost magical realism.
Okay.
Because there are some really weird things that happen.
So you haven't read any other mysteries from the classics?
No, not really. I haven't read like any Agatha Christie or I don't know.
Any other ones?
Yeah, I got into Sir Arthur and back then, and I loved Sherlock, but I haven't really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've ever read anything else that would really qualify as mystery or detective.
I don't think I have. I got so much into Agatha Christie. I probably read 99% of her stuff.
Okay, that's a lot because she's pretty prolific.
She was. And then I've just finished reading all the Lord Peter Wimseys by Dorothy L. Sayers.
Okay.
She was a contemporary of Christie.
Yeah.
Actually, the first half of the 20th century. I'm quite interested as well.
Okay.
And weirdly, they feel so much modern than things that have been written in the 60s and 70s. It's really weird.
Okay. That does sound weird. I'm curious. I need to go. I need to go have a chat with Josh about it because a lot of or pretty much, I think all of the detective shows that I really like are based on books. So I really enjoyed Bosch, and Michael Connelly wrote the whole Bosch series, and I think is still writing Bosch books.
I think so.
And the Jack Reacher book show, it's not nearly as good as Bosch, but it's fun. And yeah, I've been thinking I want to try it. Just like I love Westerns. Like I'm a huge Western movie fan. I don't know how many times I've seen all of Clint Eastwood's Westerns, but I've never read a Western.
Okay.
And I've got like 8 centimeters of Lonesome Dove on my shelf.
There's a short one that you can start with. True Grit.
That was a book?
Yes.
I didn't realize that was a book. I love that. I mean, I love the original John Wayne version, even though it's super cheesy now. But I also love the remake. The remake was also very good.
It's so good.
Okay.
True Grit, because I have to be the one. Charles Portis.
Oh, I've actually heard the author's name before, at least. Okay.
Because I'm the geek with a book database.
Uh-huh. My book database is called Goodreads.
Mine is called Bookpedia.
Uh-huh. But I'm not a nerd with a database, but I am a design nerd. And one of the things I would most like to do, this would be like the crowning achievement of my career, is redesign Goodreads because it's fucking horrible.
It is pretty horrible.
Oh my God. Every time I design interfaces for software for a living, and every time I open Goodreads, I'm just like, I want to punch someone. It's so bad. And it would be so easy to make it so much better.
Yeah.
But I think the reason it's so bad is Amazon bought it. And then I bet they downscaled the team and thought it's good enough. It's going to sell books for us, and they're not putting any effort into making it better.
Yes. Oh, Rebus. Yes. Those are pretty good too. And Tom Harris Red Dragon. Yeah.
Red Dragon, I have heard. Isn't Red Dragon like the sort of inspiration for the Hannibal Lecter movies?
It's the first one.
Right.
I think it's the first one, and then it's The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Gosh, I think Silence of the Lambs is one of the very first books I read in English.
Okay. Actually, it occurs to me. I read Stieg Larsson. I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and the ones that followed it, although they're not as good. The first one was pretty good. After that, it was kind of like, yeah, it's all right. James Patterson.
I always get this view of the film of Red Dragon with oh god, here goes fog brain. The actor who plays Voldemort. And
Ralph Fiennes?
Yes, Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes, yeah.
And he has a tattoo on his back. And it's actually William Blake. It's one design that William Blake illustrated.
Ralph Fiennes actually has a tattoo.
No, in the film.
The character in the movie. Okay, right.
It's quite something. Gone Girl.
Okay, so I guess I've got enough Western and detective suggestions to keep me not reading fantasy for the rest of the year, rest of next year.
There's one I want to read, actually. It's by the Stoner. And
John
I think
Williams.
it's called Butcher's
Crossing. Yeah.
So that one I want to get to as well.
I'm slowly working my way through all of his stuff because I haven't heard anyone say any of it was not good. In fact, I haven't heard anyone say any of it was not great. Tori kindly sent me Augustus a few months ago. So I've got that to get to, which like so many people say is remarkably good. Did you've read Stoner? Or
yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about Stoner the whole time I was reading Moon Palace by Paul Auster.
Okay.
And it's a hard book for me to do a review on because I want to get it right. And I realized rereading it now because I read it first time when I was in university, so a very formative period of my life. And then I read it a couple more times later and last week. And thinking about doing a review for it, all I can say is if you liked Stoner, you would probably like Moon Palace.
Okay.
Right? That is, it's a very different book in a lot of ways, but it has a lot of similar stuff going on. Like the character is kind of an academic and is very in his head, and there are some very messy relationships that are not as healthy as they could be if only people were different.
Okay.
It's good. But like I said, it's got this almost magical realism feel because there are a lot of things in it that are like extremely unlikely coincidences. They're obviously, I mean, that's part of the point of what he's doing, but yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, how what you read taints or gives a lens to what you get to something else. I mean, when I was reading Stoner, I can think of another book I had read a few months before, Goodbye, Mr. Chips.
All right.
That's written by James Hilton. And I had no idea he's also the author of Lost Horizon, of the Shangri-La, who invented Shangri-La thing. But it's a whole, so one is an adventure, and then you have Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which is very much reflective and quiet.
Right.
A bit like Stoner, but very much different. Stoner was much more raw.
I mean, it sounds like pretty much everything John Williams wrote was extremely different from everything else John Williams wrote. You know, like Butcher's Crossing is kind of a Western. Augustus is a epistolary ancient Roman story. Stoner is about a professor. in what, the 50s, or it was around the 50s,
Something
wasn't
like
it?
that.
Yeah. What other books has he got? He didn't write that many.
He
He
wrote a
started
fourth one, but I
he
don't think
started
that one is
writing
open.
really late in his life. Like, he was actually a professor, and he didn't start writing until he was in his 40s or 50s or something, I think. And didn't write that many, unfortunately. It's kind of sad. Dan, I don't know whether I should recommend that you read Stoner first. I haven't read Butcher's Crossing. I'm interested to read it. Like I said, I'm a huge Western fan, but I'm yet to read one. But I want Lonesome Dove to be my first Western that I read. So when I'm brave enough to take on a book that's thicker than my spindly little arms, I will have a look at it.
It'd be interesting to hear what you think of it. I haven't read it yet, but I do want to get to it too.
Everybody I trust who has read it has just said, "Oh my God, it's awesome. It's so good." So I'm not expecting anything else, and I doubt I'll be surprised. We'll see.
Yeah.
Butcher's Crossing is fantastic, according to Rogue. Yeah, I definitely want to get to it. And I mean, the nice thing also about John Williams is he wasn't a fantasy author, so he knew how to stop before he got to page 800. I was thinking this also when I was reading Moon Palace. Like, it's totally not in the fantasy genre. It's contemporary literature, etc. And it's 350 pages or something, and it encompasses so much. Like, so much happens in that book. And I'm like, if an author like Paul Auster can write a book that has so much happening in it, then a fantasy author could do that in 300 pages as well. And I'll even give them another extra 100 pages because they have to do world building that Paul Auster doesn't have to do. You know, like 400, 500 pages. You could write a standalone with a really good story. And almost nobody does it in fantasy. You know,
they
almost
generally
everything
wrote much smaller books. I mean, sci-fi, I've read a few. I mean, I have this whole obsession about John Wyndham. And I mean, most of his books are based, they're set in our world, but then one extraordinary thing happens. And then he extrapolates like a Petri dish thing, what's going to happen. Although the Chrysalids, that one is something's happened to our world.
Right.
But they're all very short, and they're all thought experiments and so good, but tiny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, I think it might be, maybe it's also a little bit driven by publishing. I'm not sure, because like the classic, most successful ever fantasy book is The Lord of the Rings, and The Lord of the Rings is not short.
No, but they had to divide it because of paper shortage.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's not meant to be a trilogy. It's a book. But it's like, if you put it all together, like, I've got a couple of editions that are one with everything, and they're thick, really chunky bastards.
I have one here somewhere.
Yeah, no, I've got an Alan Lee illustrated centenary edition, I think it is, which is awesome. Britain. And I've got the red leather-bound slipcase deluxe, whatever it is, edition, which is also awesome. But yeah, I think maybe because that was like the first big fantasy novel, publishing and maybe reader expectations are like, it has to be super chunky. It has to be a long series or something. But there are so many books I love, and they're like 300 pages, and they tell a whole story,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see some fantasy authors do that a bit more. Like Sword and Sorcery, the old school stuff, Howard and Moorcock and all those guys, their books came out, they were like Zelazny as well. Their books were as thick as your pinky,
Yeah.
It's funny. I've been reading the Amber books as in-between books. Like, stick them in between Robin Hobb and Malazan books because they're only 120 pages. I can read them in a day. But yeah, it doesn't happen that much anymore. Not many people do that.
Well, I'm going to have to go. I'm very happy there's someone here to keep you company.
Thank you for dropping by, Vera. Good to see you.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure.
Have a good time.
Have a lovely Christmas.
All right. Merry Christmas. Bye.
See ya.
Oh, well, hello there.
Hello,
I'm
Britain.
getting a bit of deja vu here.
Why?
Because we had a podcast a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't live. We didn't have anyone in the chat, and there wasn't a Christmas background. This feels totally different.
But yeah, oh yeah, you're Buddhist, so you guys don't celebrate Christmas. Well,
I mean, I belong to the culture that celebrates Christmas, so I grew up with Christmas. But I'm single. I don't have any kids. I don't have any religious attachment to Christmas, so I'm not too worried about it.
Fair enough. You didn't wish Merry Christmas to your family or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've got aunts in America and my stepmother, and I wish them a Merry Christmas because it's what you do. But I just personally don't really care about Christmas much. LPQ, all 4 books, is about the length of one Stormlight book. That's true. That's true, Rogue.
Did you have like a bad time with Christmas?
No, I just don't care about it much. I mean, like,
not a fan of commercialism. You seem like an anti-corporate guy.
I'm not much of a corporate guy. I don't care about Christ. I don't care about consumerism too much. I mean, I buy things for friends of mine. I had 2 friends over last night, more just sort of to hang out, and I got them each a nice book. But yeah, I don't know. When I had a girlfriend, we would do Christmas stuff a bit more and decorate a little and whatever. But being single and childless, it's like, yeah, Christmas doesn't mean that much to me. If I had kids, I'm sure I'd do like full-on crazy Christmas for them because it's fun. I had Christmas stuff when I was a kid and I liked it, you know. Did anyone listen to the Friendship Onion podcast before they stopped a year ago? Merry and Pippin actors. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, okay. I heard a couple of those. Those were pretty fun.
Never heard of it.
I heard a couple of those. They're pretty good.
I used to watch. I haven't watched them in a while. There's a bunch of them I haven't seen yet, and they also put it out as a podcast. Ty and That Guy, and it's the actor who played, what's his name? The character's name. The best character on The Expanse. Why can I not remember his name? It's the actor who played this character, whose name I can't remember, and it's one of the authors who is James S.A. Corey. James S.A. Corey has 2 authors, Daniel Abraham, and who wrote Long Price Quartet, and Ty Frank. And Ty Frank was the main writer on The Expanse, the TV show, and Ty Frank and that guy, the actor, did a really cool podcast together. Yeah, Ty Frank. That's not the name I'm trying to think of, though. I'm trying to think of the actor, the character, actually. Let me pull up IMDb. The Expanse. I'm gonna kick myself because he's my favorite. I'm just blanking right now. Where's the cast? Amos. The character's name is Amos Burton, and the actor's name is Wes Chatham or Chatham. I'm not sure. Yeah, the guy who plays Amos on The Expanse and the writer from The Expanse, Ty Frank, have a thing called Ty and That Guy, and it's usually really interesting and funny.
I haven't watched or read The Expanse, so I have no opinion on the subject.
Damn, watch The Expanse. It is literally, and I love science fiction television. I would say it's the best science fiction series ever.
Oh, sir,
It's
don't you mean
really good.
Deep Space Nine? And the
No,
Twilight Zone? The
No.
original Twilight Zone?
Twilight Zone is not what I would call science fiction because most of the stories don't have anything to do with science. I would call them much more closer to fantasy, most of them.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. There are a couple sci-fi ones, though.
Yeah, there's a couple that are more
The
science
sci-fi
fiction-y.
is very, very loose.
Yeah.
Though Deep Space Nine is...
I'm not sure about... Whoops. Britain just disappeared. I'm not sure, actually, Rogue, about the Expanse books. I started the first one after I'd already seen the series, so I kind of already knew the story. And maybe it was just a bit slow burn kind of start, but I was having a really hard time getting into it. Yeah, you clicked the wrong thing, I guess.
I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. Yes, that's precisely what happened.
That happens. That you disappeared very suddenly.
Yeah, I was trying to put up our because I'm doing a unique thing since it's Christmas. So I'm putting up our podcast episode today, and I'm putting up my podcast's Christmas episode tomorrow.
I have a new video that is up and waiting. It'll be out tomorrow as well.
So you did an Elric video.
I did.
Went through the whole shebang. Like you showed Epic Poo. I saw a little mini doc that I never even saw before.
Yep.
Even Hawkmoon. So I guess you really went into a deep dive, huh?
Kind of. I mean, I think the context around Michael Moorcock is really interesting. Especially like everybody's so into the Cosmere now, and it's like Moorcock was doing it in the 60s already. The whole Eternal Champion thing I find really interesting. I was really into those books when I was a teenager. I read.
Yeah, it's a good one to get into when
a lot of, not just Ulrich, but like Hawkwind, Corum, Jerry Cornelius. I read like most of the Eternal Champion books back then, and really loved them. It's a lot of fun with a dark edge. At least Elric is pretty dark.
Oh yeah, it gets really weird too, especially as the books move along. And
yeah.
Also Moorcock just stopped caring about continuity, if he even cared about that at all.
And he also, like, when he actually wrote them, he wasn't writing them in any kind of order. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like a lot of the novels that exist today were never written to be novels. They were actually written as short stories with years in between them. But then at some point, somebody wanted to make novels out of them. So they were like, hey, Moorcock, can you put these together in a way that they kind of flow together? So, yeah, most of the Elric novels were not novels. They were glued together short stories. So,
yeah, it sounds about right.
And it shows. It shows. There are a lot of weird jumps and breaks and all that sort of stuff. But still, I think they're great. Some very original stuff going on, especially when you realize they were written in the 60s.
I should probably give this to you.
Dark Tower doesn't count. Yeah, it doesn't really count. I love the Dark Tower, but
I like the Dark Tower.
I don't think it really counts. Oh, so
yeah, Dark Tower is its
is
own thing. Like, it's a Western fantasy horror, cosmic horror.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing.
Basically, Stephen King's drug-fueled take on So Goes Roland to the Dark Tower. If I probably butchered that, I apologize. The Robert Browning poem.
Child Roland, yeah.
Child Roland, thank you.
Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
That's it. Yeah, I knew I butchered that title. It was very old-timey.
But yeah. It is pretty old-timey, yeah.
So how is Fitz the cat?
Fitz is asleep over there. She gave up yelling at me after eating. She always yells at me after eating, as if I didn't already just minutes ago feed her. And then once she gets tired of yelling at me, she falls asleep. Because cats sleep most of their lives.
Yes, they're very acquainted with death.
Not a bad life.
Sleep so much.
Yeah. I don't know if those two necessarily go together, but...
Well, you know, sleep is the cousin of death. You've heard Nas, haven't you? Listen to rap and from time to time.
Yes, I do.
Also, you read The Sandman. They're siblings. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I just got the super chunky leather-bound first volume of Sandman.
Oh, yeah?
Because it's been a long time since I read the whole thing, because it's really... there's a lot of Sandman to read.
I know. It's like
so
10
I thought,
volumes, aren't there?
Well, these... wait just a sec, I'll get it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And others, you know, we're not sexist on this channel.
Are we not? What made you say that?
Well, I was saying, well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I was trying to keep them entertained while you were gone. But I was trying not to offend anybody. Ooh, yeah, I've seen that copy. Ooh, yes.
It's gorgeous, and there are 3 of these. Is the complete Sandman.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I have enough money to get those. Like at Barnes and Noble, at my local Barnes and Noble, I walk over and they have the annotated edition, and I'm standing there and I'm like, how do you annotate a comic? Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a separate pages at the back or something with references. But
that would actually, like, this was inspired by this, you know.
That would actually be really interesting, because there are references to almost everything in human history somewhere in Sandman, and references to other comics. Like it's really weird in a way what Gaiman did, because he resurrected, like, a lot of the characters in Sandman are not original.
Oh yeah,
they pretty much all of them, they already existed in comics before Sandman, just they weren't really being used by anyone. They were old characters that had kind of died off, and Gaiman was like, oh, can I have this character, can I have this character? And he brought all of these characters back and made his own version of them, you know?
Yeah, he was very much the original Sandman was more of like a pulp adventurer.
Yeah exactly. So, and not just Sandman, but like almost all of the characters. Yes. The
Cat he basically pulled Alan Moore Swamp Thing
was very
Sandman.
Cool. Yeah, basically. except almost all of the characters that Gaiman was using were unknown and unpopular, whereas Swamp Thing was actually a running character at the time. But yes, Heidi, the Cat episode of the Sandman TV show was awesome. It was really, really good. And no, I will not show it to Fitz. I do not want Fitz to get any ideas.
I enjoyed the serial killer convention arc. They did that beautifully.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see him do the Shakespeare one, because that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Oh. The Poor Person's Book Reviewer, who I do not know.
I do know this guy. We've talked a few times.
I don't think, whoever you are, that you've ever been at a pub. But I'm reading Swamp Thing right now and just got up to Constantine. Yeah, Constantine. Hellraiser is another series that I'd like to get the chunky, pretty versions of. Mr. Joe Byrne in the house. And Frozen.
Joe, my man. Wait, you're Jewish though. You guys don't celebrate Christmas.
I do not. We are a Christmas tree household, although we have.
That's why he has time on Christmas Eve.
That's why I have time. No one's doing anything.
I'm a Buddhist. You're a Jew.
most relaxed. People last minute presents. Nope, not us. We're just not. I didn't buy anyone anything. It's fine. I had to get my kids Hanukkah stuff, but even that, that taps out when they're older. So
Well,
it's
we're
really
talking about comics, Joe. So you came just in time.
That's amazing.
I
just feel like I should talk to Britain every day on air. I know that
Yeah.
this is my 2 days in a row streak. Oh, nice.
I just got this. I mean, I've read it before, but I wanted to. I think I've never read all of it, and there's a lot of it. So I am slowly getting these massive hardbound tomes, and I think 3 of them, and then that's everything. It's the easy way to get all of it. There's so many comics where it's really messy and confusing if you're trying to get the whole story.
Yeah. Right. The crossovers and the guest appearances and
and also just Hellboy, for example. Like Hellboy has gone in so many different directions now that if you really want to get all of the stuff, I mean, there is a main story and there is a nice collection, which I have up on my shelf, the library editions, which are the big black cloth bound, gorgeous versions. And that has the whole main story. But if you want all of it, you need to get the BPRD stuff. And, there's all these side bits and.
I mean, even these aren't complete, right? It's the complete run of the Invincible title, but as massive as it is, but there's still like related, because he created a mini universe.
Yeah.
And in theory, all of Image is part of it, in theory. But really, I mean, you don't need to buy all of it. I hope.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ancillary stuff. You can go down a rabbit hole a bit.
Jared, I haven't got the Norse mythology yet.
No.
I ordered it. It will be coming into my comic shop. Hopefully, probably not until the first week of January with Christmas and everything happening. But there's a comic version of Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, and it came out in individual issues, and then they put it together in 3 hardbound volumes, and then they put all 3 of those hardbound volumes together into one slipcase hardbound volume. And I obviously like really big books, and I cannot lie. So I ordered the 1 volume Norse mythology with slipcase.
Nice.
And it looks, just from the pictures I've seen, it looks gorgeous. I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's also really cool that Norse mythology has been in comics for decades. And now is maybe the first time that you're getting actual Norse mythology in comics. Like a comic version of the actual stories, and not just Thor is a guy who's sometimes on Earth, and often punches people and hits them with his hammer.
Also, him and Loki aren't brothers. Loki and Odin are technically blood brothers. So it's more of it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
I can just see the actually people just rattling in the background. Right?
I was in Iceland. We did a walking tour, and it was led by like a guy who was like a history major, and he does walking tours in Reykjavik because that's what you do when you have a history major. And he was complaining that like we have this view of Norse mythology where like Thor is like super. He's like Thor was a nobody. Balder was like the main character in the old stories, and Thor was like they just liked Thor because he had a hammer and like the lightning made for good comic effects. Like it's not like really that important, and no one realizes this. So he's telling us the story, and it's like, oh, interesting. And then we walk over, and like there's a Thor store on like the main like strip. And like just all Thor related crap in this entire, and I'm like,
of course,
the biggest store I've ever stepped into. I'm like blown away. But it's like completely, like one guy's telling me it's completely illegitimate, but then luckily capitalism gives us a store to totally cater to our BS imagery.
Baldur, you can't make a comic book superhero out of Baldur. He's just not that interesting. Not interesting in the way in a comic in the way that Thor is.
No, yeah, I get it. It's just that I think I would bet most people believe Thor is like the main like war god of Norse mythology.
Sure.
It's like okay, Stan Lee, you really did a number on the world. Like it's kind of neat, kind of terrible and funny at the same time. I don't know.
Darn Jack Kirby and his strange blocky illustrations, his dynamic illustrations.
I actually don't know who really. I don't actually know that it was Stan Lee. I have no idea who actually
created Thor.
The Marvel version.
Marvel Thor, yeah.
I'm sure someone has researched all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
No, I don't want to get into that. The whole who really did it? Was it Stan Lee or Jack Kirby? Because that's just a rabbit hole. That
yeah. But you can usually kind of piece it together. You know what really, more or less.
Yeah.
It's also why I don't love the Marvel method. I'm like, oh well, that's a great way to get people angry about royalties, and that comes up.
Yeah. No, it's important for royalty's sake. I don't know that it matters to us in the same way.
No. We're certainly not getting any money from it.
No.
Throwing money at it.
Right. Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
I'm catching up on the DC movies now. They're all coming to Netflix, or many of them are coming to Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't seen any of them. So I watched like Man of Steel and like Dawn of Justice and then Wonder Woman back to back. And
they're a mixed bag in my opinion. Like I remember liking the first Wonder Woman.
Yeah. It was legitimately good. Not great, but
yeah.
good.
Yeah, Wonder Woman was pretty good. Yeah.
It was good. It's a good movie.
Probably my favorite of the. It's probably my favorite of the DC.
But Man of Steel, I'm just like watching. I'm like, how did this get released to theaters? Like, how did no one say the storytelling? It's visually lovely, but the storytelling doesn't make any sense. You know, the emotional beats don't work.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's not Superman.
Yeah, philosophically, the whole thing is wrong. But even if you accept what it's philosophically trying to do, which I think is wrong, even if you accept that, it's done badly. Like it's wrong on so many different ways. I'm like, watch. I was blown away, and I don't understand anything about the world because I can't imagine how this movie got released. Like it makes no sense to me in any. But it's there, and and it had some cool bits. You can't fault Zack Snyder's like combat action scenes are lovely, So and then
I get into. I mean, because maybe I'm a designer and was a photographer, and I'm a very visual person. Like some of these movies, I can just look at them and I'm like, wow, this just looks amazing. Yeah. It's really cool to look at. And I love action. And if the action's well done, I can say, okay, it looks amazing and the action's cool.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you've got those and it's also a well-told story,
right.
That's better, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. Just finished the George Perez run on Wonder Woman, and that was excellent too.
Oh yeah, George Perez, he was good.
Yeah,
he was definitely good.
I don't think I've ever read a Wonder Woman comic. Oh wow, Gurkenschnitzel. Gurkenschnitzel is one of my old friends in real life, not in BookTube life. Wow. We've known each other for 20 years or something. Andre, Merry Christmas, Andre. Good to see you.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. We used to work together.
I don't think any of my in real life friends have ever like commented on a video or like left a book. No, some people have left book reviews.
I've got a few now. I've actually got, and they surprised me. They found me by coincidence. I didn't tell them about the channel. But like I got a comment from Rico in Australia.
Nice.
At one point, and I was like, you're watching my videos? And recently, actually, a friend of mine in San Francisco, he's a director. He works in movies and advertising and stuff. And we had a really long chat about my channel. And like he was like, yeah, maybe you could do this, maybe you could do that, and make the videos a little better. And I was like, great, that's cool. That's really cool. Hello, Eno, if Eno happens to be out there anywhere. 23 years, apparently, Andre and I have known each other.
So question, is the advice you're getting, is it like a technical, like a different camera, different angles, different lighting, different sound, or is it like you should do a different kind of content?
He was a mix of both. He was consulting with me on lighting because I asked him to. because I was like, I want to improve my lighting. Have you got any ideas? And the other stuff that we were mostly talking about was more the dramaturgy of a video, like how you can tell a story in a video, even if it's not a story itself, how you can, build things up and have a climax and whatever. The story-like structure that is possible in a video, which I usually don't have in any of my videos because I just sit down and talk.
Well, you're very eloquent in your videos, Matt. I think so.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you. That is surprising because basically what I do is I write a bullet list and then I just blah, blah, blah.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah. And I could,
It's
one of the things I actually just did. I cut my thoughts about 2023 and plans for 2024 video today, and it'll be online tomorrow. And that's one of the things I said I want to try and do next year is maybe think a little bit more and prepare a little bit more before I record. Because I often end up pretty dissatisfied with my own videos because right after I record it, when I start cutting it, I'm like, I forgot to say this and I could have said that. And well, it would have been much better if, that kind of thing.
Oh, the almighty, if only.
Yeah.
I put at least 1 shower's worth of thought into every video before I record it. That's my unit of measurement for thought. 1 shower worth, and then I sit down and I record the video. And then if I'm lucky, I've been editing out. I edited out a handful of ums in the video I released yesterday, which I never used to do. But I'm finally like, you can sort of tell where the ums are from the audio track. I can just cut that out. It only takes a few seconds. Let's cut out some of my ums. I'm really bad, and I'm just like, it's just how it's going to be. I'm not like if it's a choice between like carefully editing a video and spending like several hours doing it, or I'm just not going to release a video. So I'm like, well, some people are appreciating what I'm doing now. I'm just going to let that stand. And if my audience never grows above 121, at least I've got a perfect square of subscribers, so I can be satisfied with with that. It's not 69, but it's a perfect square. So I'll let that go. But I was going to do someone was talking about like these authors doing their state of like the state of Ryan, the state of Sanderson, like their wrap up at the end of the year, like what the status of them as a writer and stuff. And I was like,
right.
And I thought, should I do that? And I tweeted as a joke, and people were like, you should. I'm like, oh, okay. If I tweeted it, now I have to.
Yeah, give the people what they want.
Yeah, that's what I'm all about. That's my motto. So
that and men punching spaceships.
Men punching spaceships. That's my genre. And Knuckles and the Grimdorf is Knuckles and Necromancy, which I'm super pleased about.
I need to back that. I'm really curious what is going to be.
Read it first. Well, no. Do the Patreon because you'll get everything with the free tier. Like you don't have to give money, right? Just you can join with the free membership. And you'll get a link every week. I'm not trying to. My idea is like if I'm providing like serious value, and after like 2 months you're like, I really am loving this. Throw some money my way or not, depending on your circumstances. But no one should pay up front.
Right.
I will recommend against it. I even say that in the little intro page. I'm like, don't pay me. Get it for a while. See if you're loving it and you feel like you want to throw some money my way. I'll take it, but you don't need to because everything you're going to, and at some point I may do things where like you're a week behind if you're not paying, but it won't be more than that. And who cares, right? Like, someone will want to pay for to be on, you get every chapter right on time, but most people, and that's my intent. I feel like if I start charging and people are really giving me money for it, I've got to get better covers and editors.
Yeah, you have to actually make it good if people are buying it.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. That's the whole point. Is I didn't want to do that.
Hello, K-Hod. Merry Christmas.
K-Hod. Merry Christmas.
And Hanukkah and whatever else. Festivus for the rest of us.
Hanukkah. There are no real Muslim holidays around now.
Well, Ramadan, but that's in June.
Well, it moves. That's the weird part about the Muslim holiday. They follow a true lunar calendar. Jews put in a leap month. So we follow a lunar calendar, but we add a month every 4 years so that we end up sort of normalizing to the solar calendar more or less. More or less. Okay. But Ramadan really moves. Like it just moves 11 days back every year. And it can, of course it's, years, it'll change seasons. It'll be completely different. So that's different.
I know it's kind of embarrassing to say, but like I've never lived anywhere where I had a lot of exposure to Jews. So I know nothing about Hanukkah or any of the Jewish celebrations. And I mean, you see a little bit of it on television every now and then, depending on what you're watching, but
Jewish culture is very strong in the U.S. largely because there are a lot of Jews in New York. New York was the entertainment capital of the country, so Jews have like I'm speaking for my people. We have a disproportionate influence on like entertainment. So people get a lot of like Jewish humor and references that I think they wouldn't if we were just. And this is not happened with Muslims, right? So I think the typical American doesn't have the same exposure to Muslim culture because Muslims are not overly represented in the entertainment industry. It just the economics didn't work out that way for the way Muslim immigration and where they are in this country happened.
Well, and they didn't have to all flee Europe in the 40s.
Yeah, I mean there are plenty of Muslims in the country, but they're not focused in New York, and they're not culturally. You know how businesses work, right? A couple people get into a business and they bring all their friends into it, and you just end up with a lot of like Koreans owning groceries. There's nothing about Korean culture that makes owning like a growth like that actually. They're not actually connected. Totally. An accident of history. So Hanukkah's not. Didn't used to be a serious like important. It's not an important holiday really, but it. I think we pumped it up to sort of.
To compete with the Christians,
compete with Christmas, right? Because our kids were going to school here, and their friends were getting all these Christmas presents and Santa and stuff on TV. They were super excited. It's like, well, Hanukkah's around the same time, 8 days. You like candles? Let's give. And you used to give like gelt, just like a little money to the kids, and then they just pumped it up. So it's 8 days of gifts. So your kids don't feel bad they're missing Christmas, but it's not a biblical holiday. Like you can work, and then. And then the funny part is like you're celebrating the Maccabees, who basically a lot of the Jews in Israel at the time were sort of becoming very reform, and were adopting a lot of Greek, I think it was Greek practices, and sort of becoming less. The Maccabees were like the hardcore right wing. Let's all go back to the way we're supposed to be. And I realized upon actually studying it sort of objectively, I would probably have been on the wrong side of that war, or at least the losing side. I'm celebrating this holiday where I'm probably that guy that they hated, and they would have sorted me, But I still will eat the little chocolates.
Yeah, I mean,
Joe's here for the chocolates.
I'm here for the little chocolates. Yeah, the Hanukkah gelt, right? The little the gold foil wrapped. That's the thing.
I actually got one of those from a friend who made a little bag of gifts. She's not Jewish, not at all. But I think she just bought some of those because they're kind of cool little way to present chocolate.
Yeah, they are cool. So I got some at Trader Joe's, and I gave them to my kids, and they were like, "Thanks, Dad." My kids are not very. They're not raised deep in any kind of religion. So
it's funny. I actually understand a fair bit of Yiddish now.
Yeah, well, it's German
because I speak German. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And you say Hanukkah Geld, and I'm like, Geld. Yeah, okay. It's money. Yeah.
I remember. I took German like a year of it in college. So.
And it was probably easier because you already spoke Yiddish.
My Yiddish is pretty bad, but yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Joe, I will consider reading your book next year as like a palate cleanser, because I'll definitely have it on the palate cleanser list, because your book seems like that really nice, fun, I don't want to say not think too hard, because that might seem a little backhanded, but fun.
Okay, so I released a video about this yesterday about what types of books make you think, and it's an argument, and it was basically about Wistful Ascending, but I didn't call it that, and I didn't reference it in the video. But my whole contention is books. There is depth there if you bother thinking about it, but you don't have to. So if you don't want to, be my guest. But there are themes addressed in that book that are, and I get a slightly what's the word, verklempt when when the reviewer's like, it's just a beach read, no depth to this at all, just fun surface stuff, and I'm like, you could,
Another Jew. We're getting flooded by Jews in here.
Shalom. I just stopped by to drop some of my Yiddish for you guys.
Are you proper Yiddish speaker, not like a fake Jew like Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a total fake Jew. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's no way you're keeping bacon from me. I mean, you can tell I've had plenty of bacon, and yeah, I mean, so I'm my mother is, but I was raised by my mother's side of the family. So my parents, when they couldn't take care of me, hold on, I think I have you guys. Let me go. There we go. I had a little thing. So yeah, so my parents couldn't take care of me, and I went to live with my mother's side of the family, and they threw me into a Jewish school because they got me in for free or something, and I had earrings and a skater's cut, and I did not fit the mold, as you can see. But then I went to this Jewish school from 5th grade to 8th grade. I was bar mitzvahed. I did that whole thing. And my grandmother spoke Yiddish constantly, and my grandmother was a savage, right? So listen, so we used to bother her. Where's Laura, who was my aunt who took care of me? Where is she? Is she coming home? Where is she? And my grandmother would be, tochas gropen reisen. And it would be up your butt looking for grouts. And then we would bother her, right, or something. I'm 10, my brother's 5. When we moved in with my grandmother, we bother her for something, and she would get pissed, and she'd be like, "Ungevishken a vega schwimmen," which means, take a piss and swim away in it.
Where is she from? Like what country?
So I'm Lithuanian. My great grandmother fled Lithuania.
Okay.
And came into Ellis Island, moved to Delaware, and opened a Jewish bakery. And there was an interesting thing. I put out a review about a spear that cuts through water, and
the
these
spear
stories
cuts through water. There's no that.
Did I do it again?
You did
I
it
do it again? I'll continue to do it. I love the word
It
that.
just cuts through water. It's not that spear.
Just keep it in your shtick. The guy who puts that in every book title.
I butchered it a few weeks ago. I was like, the spear through water or something? You're like,
country is that for old men? Just put it in
It's also that Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
Lord of that ring.
Lord of that Rings.
When I read it, my review is that's what I'm going to do. I'm definitely going to put a that in there somewhere. It could totally be in the middle.
Wait a sec.
Lord that rings.
Wait a sec. We're friends, or at least I thought we were. But you haven't read Lord of the Rings yet?
I read it when I was a kid. I read it in high school. Okay. In high school, yeah. And I read The Hobbit and
that
stuff
was
in high school.
That was close.
Mm-hmm.
You said when I read it, and I was like, wait a sec.
So I wanted to get back to this how the spear cuts through water, right? And there's a grandmother telling a child a story, and I got stories from the old country from my grandmother who my great grandmother told stories. Anyway, so she had a Jewish bakery, and we have a newspaper clipping of her being arrested for opening up her bakery on a Sunday, which was blue laws. So we have and that's something that sticks with me, from Jen. That's a story we kind of, that my cousins used to tell, my older cousins used to tell me. I'd be like, yeah, I heard it like a million times. These are these stories that are passed down, and, any ism, because, there was, some anti-Semitism in that. So any ism, automatically pisses me off, racism, sexism, and that's
hopefully not Buddhism.
No, I think Buddhism would be right up my alley. I think,
Okay, that's good.
Where in Delaware? I know Delaware a little bit.
Wilmington. I was born in Wilmington.
I did not use that. You're in Philly
Yeah.
now? Am I confusing myself?
No, so I'm right outside of Philly now. When I moved with my grandparents, I was born in Delaware. That's where my parents were living. And when they couldn't take care of me, I went to live in Ventnor, which is next to Atlantic City.
Okay.
And that's where I was basically raised from 10 on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Heidi, just quickly, Heidi said a while ago, I saw that Heidi said something about Chinese food and movies, but I don't think I got that reference. No.
Chinese food and movies is a traditional Jewish thing to do on Christmas.
Ah, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
the Chinese restaurants are the only place
because the Chinese food restaurants are the only thing open.
Okay.
Chinese go to the movie theater because it's empty because all the goyim are with their families.
The goyim, yep.
You get to go and you get the movie theater yourself, and you have lots of Chinese food, and the place is empty, and they know you because you're the Jewish film that comes in every Christmas, and it's a traditional thing. So my Muslim wife will get me Chinese food for Christmas to celebrate my culture.
That is rather multicultural.
The whole world joins in on Christmas.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. No Buddhism in there. Well, no, maybe the Chinese, the people making the Chinese food could very well be Buddhist.
They could be, indeed.
They sure as shit didn't bring you kosher Chinese food, though.
No. They have kosher Chinese. I mean, if you go to like New York, there's definitely kosher Chinese. And the funniest thing. So my wife's family is from Bangladesh. And Chinese food in America is very Americanized, right? It's made to our taste. It's not
nothing like Chinese food at all.
In like a hole in the wall restaurant in China wouldn't serve the same. They wouldn't do the food the same way. So they do the same thing in Bangladesh. Chinese restaurants in Bangladesh, they make the food differently for Bengali tastes. So you can go to Queens, New York, and get Bengali Chinese food. Which it's very good, but it's definitely not American Chinese food. It's like a different thing, and it makes me laugh every time.
I've traveled a lot, and for a long time, like until COVID, basically, I was somewhere in the world, other than Germany, other than where I lived, 4 to 5 months of the year, and I was just all over the place. I used to give lectures on Buddhism, and we have like our Buddhist group. We have centers in 44, 45 countries. Wow. So somewhere in Russia, they would invite me, and I would go to Russia and teach Buddhism in Russia. And then I go to Lithuania. I went to Lithuania a number of times, and Latvia and New Zealand and whatever. No. Wasn't my money. Like I was being invited. No, I wasn't paying to do this. People were inviting me. So I was all over the place. And I had a thing that I had like 3 sort of Chinese dishes. And every time I went anywhere, like they would say, "Oh, you're in Latvia, you're in Lithuania, you're in wherever, let's go out for a traditional Latvian meal." And I'd be like, "No, actually I want to go out for Chinese." And they'd take me out for Chinese, and I'd have them translate the menu, and I'd be like, "Okay, I want to see what this is in Latvian style."
General Tso's chicken.
Exactly.
Lithuanian General Tso's chicken.
Yeah. For me, it was always Kung Pao chicken was one of them because I love Kung Pao chicken. Sure. And I'd get it wherever I was.
That's fantastic.
And just sort of see how it was, and it was super different in every country. Everywhere I went, Lithuanian Chinese food is the sweetest food I have ever eaten that wasn't a dessert. It was insane. Like I couldn't eat it. I don't get into sweet that much, and it was just too sweet for me.
Wow.
Yes, Liam. This is not a fantasy bookish chat. This is multicultural food chat. Apparently,
Liam brought me back to my childhood. I listened to him and Raph talking for 2 hours about Drizzt Durden, and I was like, "Oh, this brings me right back to my whatever it was, 20s. I guess it's not really childhood, but reading all those books."
I think I probably didn't miss that much, but I have a bit of FOMO about Drizzt Do'Urden. It's such a cultural reference in the particular nerd culture that we're kind of in. and especially if you're a D&D player, which I don't really play D&D anymore, but I played a lot of D&D in the past. And I feel like I should read at least one of the Drizzt books.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's kind of Elric. Or it reminded me of Elric when I'd see like the covers. I'm like, oh, I'm sure it's different from Elric, but it's yeah.
They're pulpy D&D stuff. They're not.
He's got long white hair. I think that's about the only Elric similarity.
Hey guys, I'm gonna hop off. I still got things to make in there, but I wanted to, I heard, another tribesman of mine jumped on, so I wanted to give you my my Yiddish and my grandmother's story. Hey, I hope everybody has a happy holiday. If you guys are watching, happy holiday. Matt, Joe, Britton, you guys enjoy yourselves, okay?
Thanks for stopping by, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, bud.
Shalom.
Yeah.
Always reminded me when I would go to church on Christmas, they would always go, "Shalom, brothers."
Really?
Or well, they would have this. We would do a nativity every year, so they tried to kind of replicate what that was like. So they'd say "Shalom," so I know that.
I did not realize. That's cool. Okay.
Long Island, in the Italian neighborhood, they had the best Chinese food. Okay. That sounds
Joe,
bizarre.
I would have thought you were Italian. Yeah.
Me?
Maybe Bern should have given it away when I first met you.
No, Bern's not a real name. Bern's the result of anti-Semitism, right? I'm Romanian. The name's from Transylvania. We were Bernovici there. They came to Ellis Island. Ellis Island, they made it Bernowitz. And then in the 50s or very late, I think the 50s, that side of my family, they got together and the three brothers literally sat down and said, Bernowitz is too Jewish sounding. And one of them owned a business in like Connecticut. And it's like, people aren't shopping at Bernowitz Furniture because anti-Semitism was sort of casual anti-Semitism was rampant at the time. And they all just said, let's just make it, there's an era when people wanted to assimilate. I think today feelings are different among immigrants in general, speaking broadly. But at the time, they just wanted to be as American as possible. Like my grandparents didn't teach my dad Yiddish. Like they spoke it a little bit, but they didn't teach him. They taught him English. They spoke Yiddish to each other, but they were like all in on changing the name to something less ethnic so that they could have a better business thing. And they came up with Bern. As far as I can tell, they pulled it out of the air. I found a movie that had the name in it, a Humphrey Bogart film, but no one saw it. The timing's right. I have no idea. All the people who were in on that conversation are deceased. But so Bern is literally plucked out of the air. It is not a traditional.
It's a sort of typical American story. My last name is Ballara, Balara.
Okay.
Which is a pain in the ass because nobody has ever heard it before. Like, if you meet a Ballara anywhere in the world, they're probably related to me because it's also an invented name. My grandfather, or his father, my great-grandfather, came from Puerto Rico. And the name in Puerto Rico was Bayala with the Spanish 2 L's. So Ballala. Lots of A's and lots of L's. And they didn't speak any English. And when they immigrated, the immigration officer who dealt with them didn't speak any Spanish. And they wrote down Ballara because that's what they understood. And by the time that my family, my great-grandfather or whoever, spoke enough English to understand what was written down on these forms and realized that their name was legally wrong, they just went, it's not worth changing.
Yeah.
Just deal with it. We've got all our documents and they say Ballara now, so it's our name.
Liam's got a better story than either of us.
Name's Hall. Great grandfather left his wife and kids in England to marry a younger woman in America, and he dropped his last name when he came over to hide from the bounty hunters, I guess.
They'll never find me. No internet, right? Change your name, you disappear.
And Hall is a good sort of nondescript, not drawing any attention kind of name. It's not that unique or bizarre. Right. And Heidi's right. Someone should write a book about that. That sounds perfect.
Well, I mean, I did read I did read The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay earlier this year.
Oh, that's cool.
And,
That's
yeah,
a cool book.
That was
Speaking of Jewish,
I liked
a very
Joe's
Jewish book.
comment on my review. He's like, I didn't know my love of comic books was a I forget, it was like something of my Jewishness, and I was like, that just made me laugh.
Well, I mean, what Joe was saying about the entertainment industry in New York, comics totally is part of that.
Yeah.
You know, it was a very Jewish industry back in the day. I don't know if it still is, but back in the 50s, I guess, 60s, it was very much.
Yeah, I mean, even earlier, right? Superman was created by a couple of Jews.
Yeah.
That was even earlier.
Will Eisner was Jewish. Jack Kirby was Jewish.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Stan
people.
Lee was.
Yeah.
Disproportionate number.
Or at least I think Stan Lee was.
I don't remember.
I think he was, but I'm not sure.
Jack Kirby also changed his name, apparently. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people.
It's a very American thing. In Germany, it's not impossible, but they make it as difficult as possible to change your name. And there is a well-defined set of rules what you can't change your name to. Right? To change your name to anything in Germany, you have to prove that the name exists. You can't make up a name and say, I want to now be called whatever, you know. You just can't do that in Germany. They won't let you. So it has to be a name that actually exists. And of course, it being Germany, there's a list of verboten names. You can't change your last name to Hitler, obviously, which isn't a bad thing. Isn't a bad thing.
Plan.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can still name your kid Adolf as a first name because it's a pretty old
a common German name even before he showed up, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh.
This is a pet peeve of mine. Americans always pronounce EI as E. So a lot of people call Fritz Leiber.
Yeah, I've been guilty of this.
Yeah, it's just common pronunciation in America. But since I learned to speak German, IE is E and EI is I. Yeah, so Leiber is Leiber. And I always feel like I'm saying it wrong because I say Leiber and everybody else says Lieber. Who's that? The artist guy? What?
Well, what do you?
Bob Kane was Jewish too.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's what K-Hud means. He replied.
Or well, creator of Batman. That's a little.
Hi, Ron.
That's generous.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Leiber.
Leiber is an okay name. Lieber is actually a better name because it sounds like love. Liebe is without the R is love in German. Liebe.
Oh, that's cute.
Very true about Germany. I try to incorporate my grandmother's Hebrew name as a middle name as I wasn't given a middle name, and I've given up because it's so complicated. Yeah. I do
one of mine. I've got two.
I do not know Brush to Canvas. I don't think I've ever seen you before. Welcome. And I guess they're in Germany. And yeah, Germany has a lot of rules. Germany has a lot of rules. I don't have to struggle with it anymore. And it's one of the favorite things about my current life. I used to have a temporary visa. First of all, it was dependent on my work. Well, no, it was dependent on my work. Then it was dependent on me being married. And then it was dependent on my work again once I got divorced. And now I've got a permanent visa. But back when I had a temporary, I used to have to go to the Ausländerbehörde, the immigration office, every year and wait in line for hours and make sure I had all the right papers. And every time I went, I got in the habit of like calling beforehand and with my bad German, it's a lot better now, but I'd say, I have to come visit you, and could you please tell me exactly what papers I need to bring? All of them. And they'd say, yeah, this is, you know, and I'd write it all down, and I make sure I had all those papers, and I get there, and they'd say, where's your blah, blah, blah? I'm like, the thing I've never heard of that they didn't mention to me on the phone, I didn't think to bring that because I am not telepathic.
Yeah.
But I can bring it. I just have to waste another half a day to bring it to you. Oh my God.
Bureaucracy. Gotta love it.
Angela. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah. Angela is not in Germany, but is German.
I'm going to assume incarceration is a typo in that comment.
I think that meant incarnation.
I glossed over it automatically because it obviously incarnation was intended.
I did too. On the first read, I did too. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
Maybe Angela has been imprisoned.
She's
joining us from prison.
There are some. I'm a collector of amusing typos, like marital arts, like master of marital arts.
That's good.
It's like you think you're going to scare me in a fight, but really you're saying something very different.
It's really interesting, actually. I'm not super into government and politics and all of that kind of stuff, but just from living in Germany for a long time, it's an interesting. I've never lived anywhere where they where they reinvented law and government like less than 100 years ago. You know, like after the war, Germany basically went, okay, let's start over because everything was wrong. We don't want that to happen again. So they have a super interesting constitution. And it's like nothing I've ever read before. The American Constitution is not about people, right? It's not about people at all. It's not about individuals or people's rights or anything. It's about government. And the German Constitution starts with people, like the rights of individual people. And it's like, of course, if considering the history and everything, you read it, there's totally bizarre, but there's an underground train station in Berlin that has the first 3 paragraphs or something of the Constitution set in tiles on the walls. So while you're waiting for the train, you can read it. And I go through that station a lot. And you stand there reading it and you're like, this doesn't sound like any constitution I've ever heard of. Yeah. But I like it a lot more than any constitution I've ever heard of because it's like, you know, it talks about the right of individual freedom and that any kind of oppression is illegal. Like and they call it the Grundgesetz. So the basic law, right? Or actually Grund is like the ground, the earth, the fundamental law. Yeah. The foundational fundamental laws. And it's really cool, you know? It's interesting what happens when a country reinvents itself completely, you know?
You guys have some nice trains. I was in
and some nice trains.
The big main, I think the main station in Berlin.
Oh yeah.
I was in Berlin for 6 hours over the summer. They trained us in. They took us around on a bus. Showed us here's like things to see. They fed us schnitzel. They put us back on the train. Back.
If you were in Berlin, you should have had Currywurst, which is like a Wurst cut up and then covered in curry. No, it's like a Wurst, but a longer one than like a normal hot dog, cut up in kind of a bowl with spicy curry ketchup on it.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is good. I mean, it's like drunk at 3 a.m. food.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, I used to always get a Currywurst every Friday night after we'd been out to the pub.
Nice.
In Hamburg. But yeah, And
So,
Angela knows what I'm talking about. Damn,
is
now I
the-
want a
Is the
currywurst.
Reichstag still there?
Reichstag's, of course, the Reichstag's still there. It's where the government meets.
Oh, okay. Well, I remember it got blown up a bit in World War II.
It is still blown up.
It's still blown
Google,
up.
it is. Google images of it. There are parts of the building that are damaged, and they built inside that so that you have the memory of what happened and the new. It's a really interesting building. Yeah.
I was like, wow, they didn't bother to fix it. Nah, that's...
Americans were very influential in the German Constitution, I'm going to say. Feels a bit like they tried to put in all the things they would have liked. Yeah. Although when you really read the Constitution, the American Constitution, I was surprised because when I started, I realized what the German Constitution was like. I was like, constitutions aren't usually like this, are they? And I thought the American one, surely, like individual freedoms and all that sort of stuff. Nope. The American Constitution
Bill of Rights is an
about.
amendment. Like all this stuff about individual rights, the Bill of Rights, those are amendments, which means they weren't in the original document, right? Like,
the original document is just like how do we form a government?
Trying to get everyone else to agree to band together and fund a revolution. It wasn't, there's a lot of horrific stuff in there, a lot of which we're still paying for, but that's a whole long discussion.
Yep. When am I going to show the bookstore? So I have a very cool bookstore in Berlin, and I've actually gotten to be friends with a couple of the people from the bookstore. Otherland, which is very, very cool. I've been thinking I need to go down there and show a bit of Berlin on the way, and maybe do an interview with Simon, who's one of the guys who runs the place. Yeah.
That's great. That sounds like great content because it's also not something everyone else is doing. For obvious reasons,
And it's a weird, in a way, it's kind of a weird bookstore. It's not very big, and it's got 2 rooms, but because it's Berlin, the front room is German books and the back room is English books. And then they have this weird little corner which is used books, and then they have another weird little corner which is role-playing games. But only, I'm trying to think, do they sell like normie role-playing games? I think they have D&D just because it sells, but most of their stuff is weird, interesting role-playing games because they're friends with people like me and my best friend Jason, and we recommend games to them, and more Jason than me. And so they have Chaosium stuff, and they have indie weird games, and I think they had Dogs in the Vineyard on the shelf, which probably nobody's ever heard of. Yeah. Okay, Heidi. Yeah, I will do that. It's been a while since I went to Otherland, and I really should pay them a visit. So yeah.
How was that tabletop RPG castle thing you were doing? How'd that go? Or did you
castle
mention that
thing?
At the beginning?
Castle
You
thing?
said you went on a trip to play a tabletop RPG.
I had mood problems and I canceled at the last minute.
Oh no.
I didn't go. Yep. Happens sometimes. I had not quite what I would call a panic attack, but for some reason I felt extremely uncomfortable with the idea of going, which is super stupid because it's like 20 of my favorite people and hanging out and drinking and eating good food for 3 days and playing games. But I didn't go, unfortunately. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Disappointed in myself and disappointed I missed it. But yeah. Instead, I shot 2 videos, which is also cool. Yeah, I will do that. I need to go down to Otherland. I worry about going to Otherland because I'm not really capable of going in a bookstore like that and not walking out with as many books as will fit in my bag.
Just feel like a clutch instead of a bag. Just a little purse,
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, I can only get like 1 paperback.
Yeah, I mean, they would be happy to give me as many paper bags as I want,
Well, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's
if I find books I really want, I will organize a way to carry them home. That's not a problem. Yeah. So I'm always a little bit like, I need to build up to it so that I'm prepared, and I give myself like a limit. It's like, okay, 50 euros. If I get to 50 euros, I'm stopping.
That was good for years because I didn't have any place to put anything. But then we bought a new house, and I'm going to have an office, and I'm going to have a whole wall that I can line with whatever, as many shelves as I want. So then
I thought you were moving, Joe.
I am, but it's been sometime in 2024. Hopefully. So the thing is, we weren't supposed to move. We were supposed to move next year. But then we found the house of our dreams, so we bought it. So now we've owned 2 homes now for it's been a year and 4 months already. It's not a good idea financially. Don't do it.
No, it sounds really dumb to me.
Yeah, no, it's really dumb. But it's the house of our dreams. So it's like, all right, you make sacrifices. So then I discovered Broken Binding. So now I've got a stack of packages unopened from Broken Binding, waiting for my shelves to be there. And I'm like, I was so good for years, and I'm like, oh, I've got shelves. I need books for my videos.
You've got a sub as well, or you're just ordering from them?
I just ordered a select stuff. I'm not going to go for a sub because.
Did you see that they're doing a special edition of Perdido Street Station?
Oh, I was just about to bring that up. Yes, I am.
It's in my calendar. I'm tier 2 because I have a sub, so I get to order it earlier than all you losers.
Combat Code special editions.
Okay.
The first 2 I think I have, and I got something else. I mean, I'm not even getting books I want to read. These are all books that I've read multiple, before years ago on my Kindle. These are just books for the shelf. Like, it's totally like a display thing.
Since I got into BookTube and I started a channel, I've discovered that I have a collector gene.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had that because I never had, like, for many, many years, I have not lived in one place long enough to bother having shelves, like more than 1 or maybe 2. So I just always read things on my Kindle or got a paperback and then sold it or gave it to a friend.
Oh, right.
I've read so many books that I don't own anymore.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna.
Now I've got a bit more than 90 square meters, which is 270 square feet or something, I think. It's not.
No, it's triple that. It's triple that.
295.
No.
Yeah.
Because a meter is like 3 feet, so a square meter is like 9 square feet.
Oh, right. Yeah, square in.
It's like 810
in square meters and feet. Square meters and square feet. It's 970. Yeah.
It's a little more than that because a meter is actually more than 3 feet, but you don't have to worry about that. So
it's 970 square feet.
It's 1,000. Yeah, that's
around 1,000. So for one person living alone, I mean, other than the cat, now I've got space. I could even get one more shelf easily in my living room if I really tried. So I've just gone nuts. I've been Brian Folio Society shit, and I've got a Broken Binding subscription. Although, to be honest, the only reason I'm keeping the Broken Binding subscription is because of some stuff that's coming up next year. When they start pumping out Malazan books, I have to get them. So
I'm going to have a problem with the Malazan.
I can get them earlier.
I missed the Subterranean Press. That was when I wasn't collecting anymore, or I didn't have the money for it. I forgot. My brother got them, but I really wish I'd done it. But I found like toys. I used to collect toys just a little bit for like anime stuff. Do you remember these guys from Berserk?
No.
The cushion. There were these this group of assassins that followed him around, kind of.
I haven't read or seen Berserk.
Oh, you haven't read Berserk? I'm sorry, Matt. I confused myself. I was just talking to someone who. Never mind. Toy from Berserk. That's all you need to know. And I'm like, I have no idea why I bought this.
I've heard Berserk. Berserk is one of the things where I'm like, I should get the first volume at least and have a look. Because I have a complicated relationship with manga. Like, The over-the-top facial expressions, the weird comedy that is in some manga
There's a
irritates me.
small but non-zero amount of that in Berserk. There's very
Right.
little, but there is some. But there's very little.
I got through the first
Are
arc
very
of
uneven. Like the
Vinland
first few
Saga.
volumes are pretty good for what they are,
Okay.
but then it's the next arc that takes off. That gets
Okay.
really enjoyable. But
My experience of Vinland Saga was the opposite. Vinland Saga is the same thing. It's pretty serious. There are a couple every now and then characters where I'm just like,
yeah,
why is this guy even in it? And then the second arc I found boring enough that I kind of stopped.
No, if you
I
read the
don't know.
first volume of Berserk, no one I know has been blown away by the first volume of Berserk. At best, they're like, "Oh, this is good. I'll keep reading," and that's the most positive I've ever heard anyone be. But then it gets.
I picked this up.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah, I always try to tell people to start at the golden arc. I mean, I kind of binged a lot of it this year, and I'm like, well, you can just start at the golden arc or golden age arc, because that's kind of where the story really starts. But
I read a bunch online, and then if you for free, and then if you like it, buy them.
Right.
If you don't, just don't.
Yeah.
That's maybe not a good thing for me to say, but I read them. I'll buy them and read them online because it's easier to read them online, and I'll have I figure the guy's got my money. Like, Mir is passed, but the people involved in printing it.
Somebody has your money, yeah.
People should. I mean, I bought it when he was alive, but most of it. But like, the people who produced it should get paid. In my feeling, but then I'll read it online because it's there, and I'll just keep the books on my shelf.
Yeah.
I don't feel any guilt about that. But I just reread all of Berserk like this year. I was doing it with Steve Talks Books.
Right. Cool.
Doing a volume a week, and then like around volume 25, I broke down and just read the last 20 volumes, like in a weekend. I was just like, I just got to figure out. I got to remember what happens.
That's totally what I'm doing with this as well. Like, Sandman is comics from my university times. When I was in uni.
Are you reading that with like a buddy read thing with other? Okay, because I know Philip Chase was doing Sandman with Varsha. From reading by the Rainy Mountain.
Yeah, I know that he mentioned it, I think, in his weeks that were the most recent one. I think they're going to do it next year at some point.
They did the first 8 issues.
Comes Jared.
Hey, Jared.
Here comes Jared.
We've been talking about comics too long, and he couldn't resist jumping in.
I can't. Yeah, you summon me.
Before we go much longer though, or before we go,
I can only stay for a few anyway, so that's fine.
Into new Jared things, I put this comment up there by Angela. Can someone explain Murderbot to me? Like,
I haven't read it.
The really basic sort of summary that I've heard, I'm like, that sounds stupid. I just like, and it's so popular, and it sounds like something I would hate.
So
but maybe not.
It's an android. It's an android. So it's an artificial intelligence. It's all from that android's gender neutral point of view. And the android has a very sardonic, a very unique and beautiful sardonic voice, and is an unreliable narrator.
Okay, see, all of that is something nobody has ever mentioned to me before.
That's the joy of Murderbot. The story's not that fantastic.
Okay.
The world building's nothing to shout, write home about. The tech isn't. The implications for this, but I love the voice of the character.
Okay.
And if you don't, you won't, and then you'll hate it. Then don't read them, right? Because if you don't like its voice, you're not gonna. But its voice, again, sardonic, very funny, very sarcastic, and unreliable. And I love them, but but that's all there is to it. The voice is wonderful, and then like I said, the stories are fine, but they're novellas.
Evie asked how long we're going. I have no cutoff in mind. I mean, it's 11 in the evening here, but I don't have to do anything tomorrow. I'm drinking an actually surprisingly good German wine. Usually, I have a hard time finding a good German wine. I've got a Broken Binding subscription. I used to have a red wine subscription.
I'll be right back.
I wanted to know more about red wine, and this is basically a company in Germany. You sign up, you get 3 bottles a month, and they just pick them. They just send you 3 bottles, and you can either get red or white or mixed. and they just send you whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And they, sometimes it's Italian, sometimes it's Spanish, sometimes it's German. And I realized that I don't drink 3 bottles of red wine a month.
You drink 3 a week? Or 3
No. I might, sometimes I might, if I have friends over, I might drink 3 in a night, if I've got a bunch of friends. But if it's just me, I drink 3 bottles of red wine maybe in 2 months, or even 3. And some months I don't. And in the summer, I don't drink red wine at all. So I canceled the subscription, but I've still got a lot of bottles around. And this one is actually...
They keep.
We get a ton of German wine here because the climate's similar in New York State.
This one from Pfalz.
So you go to New York State wineries and they always sell like a Gewürztraminer.
Okay.
And I'm like, I never heard of that before going to New York State wineries, but apparently
a lot of German wine, just because of the temperature.
Yeah.
And the climate. It's kind of thin. I like Spanish wine a lot. Like punch you in the throat, kind of like strong flavors. And
I like Italian reds. I'll have.
Yeah, I love Montepulciano, and
I love Valpolicella from Italy. I love that.
Yeah. No, I'm a fan of Italian and Spanish reds, but the rest, Okay, so Murderbot is mostly because it's funny, I guess.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I think
I don't know. I know nothing about it.
The action writing is superb too. DK Moon drinks 1.5 bottles a week. Evie.
Hello.
Finally, it's not a sausage party anymore.
You don't know me.
Well, it
not
wasn't
that
discussed.
well. That's true.
We are
I'm making assumptions.
But we're that age where we get to do that. That's not really an excuse, but I have a hard time with pronouns. Like if someone presents as very one gender, they're like, but call me by the pronoun of the other. And I swear I will try and I will apologize if I get it wrong, but I'm not as proficient and quick as my kids. My kids, bang, they'll use if someone's like presents very stereotypically feminine, like, but call me he, him, or they, them, and I'll forget. Okay, and I feel bad about it, but like my kids will immediately go, okay, we're done. We're good. And they'll just use it. And it's a generation thing. Like that's just not how I grew up. I mean, I'm again, not saying I shouldn't.
Yeah, one thing that I've been trying to I admit, train myself to to default to they, them, because that is inclusive. Like until they correct me, someone corrects me, then I will use. Good
idea. Again,
trying to train myself, but I'm the same way. Like I'm a what is it? I am a product of my environment and my
upbringing.
Whatever. Yeah. So
the problem I always have, and I don't mean this in any kind of bad way, but if someone tells me, like if someone looks at first glance extremely obviously female, like your example, Joe, and says, call me he, I can never help saying, okay, why? And not why as in that's wrong, but why as in I just don't understand how you get there, and I'm really curious,
I mean,
I want to understand.
They could be early in their, they might be transitioning very early.
Sure,
in that,
sure,
or,
but you don't know,
right? Exactly.
And if you meet someone who looks female and says I'm a she, then like it's obvious. It's like the default, so to speak. But I'm really curious about like how does someone get, because I'm so he, I couldn't be more he, like it's like the concept never occurred to me, and I'm just really curious. Like I know a lot of gay people. I know a couple of people who've transitioned from one gender to another, all that kind of stuff. But I'm always curious about the story because it's always an interesting story. Like, where did you start and how did you get where you are and where are you going? Maybe still, you know.
Tharnal, whenever I think of the Queen of England, I think, well, in this case, the King of England now, it's we. Not
Yeah.
that. We.
No, you don't
The
call
royal
you don't call the queen they. She calls herself we. Yeah, exactly. Right.
And also, Heidi, I don't think the Patriots play until... I don't know, Jared, you could probably tell me. They don't play until this evening, right?
Who are the Patriots? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
With the way they've been playing, I would deny their existence as well. So
I so don't get sports ball.
Sports ball. Yeah.
I only know it because my husband loves it. And I think I mentioned this last time when we talked about sports ball. I just watch hockey for the fights. So
I was watching lacrosse the other day and they were fighting. I'm like, oh shit.
That's an exciting sport to watch. That's an exciting sport to watch. But
lacrosse?
Yeah. Because they
basketball.
I mean, like if you give anybody a stick, we're humans. We're going to hit someone with it.
Yeah.
Like, hockey.
Like the red button,
They always fight. I used to play field hockey because in my school, the Catholic boys' school that I unfortunately went to, you had to play a winter sport. You didn't have to play in the summer, but it was not optional to play sport. And I was a fat kid, so I was like, I'm so uninterested in sports. But I was a fat kid who did martial arts. So they put me in field hockey, and I joined a team, and I said, I will join the team if I can be the goalie. Because the goalie in field hockey can do anything they want to anybody on the field as long as they touch the ball first. Right? So you can literally punch a guy if your foot is on the ball. So I was like, okay, this could actually be fun. And the goalie has more padding than everybody else. You're super padded. And because the ball is basically made of concrete. So guys are shooting concrete balls at you, but if you can catch the ball, you can then kill the guy with your stick or just kick him, and it actually turned out to be kind of fun.
How gladiatorial.
Yeah, it was, but only the goalie. Like there are really strict rules about everybody else on the field and when they can touch people, or generally basically they can't. But the goalie, you just put your stick in front of the ball and then you can just knock a guy over, no problem. Totally fine. Yeah.
All right. So you two, I just read this.
Oh yeah, I've got all of those. I just picked them up.
This is the brand new one. This is the brand new one.
I don't know. I have to
Number
look.
7.
I'm not sure if I have number 7.
Yeah. Because
I had them stacking up in my pull box, and I just picked them up last week. Whole stack of them.
Oh, good.
So
yeah. So
I read the first one when it came out.
It's a very good adaptation. It's very, very faithful.
That video was a good idea. The pros versus comics.
Yeah, I just put that one out. Yeah. So
you haven't? Wait.
Catch up on that. Yeah, thank you. That was it's fun. It's fun because it's the best adaptation I've seen in comics.
Okay.
Except for maybe Norse mythology, but
I was going to say better than Norse mythology.
Except for maybe that one, but because I'm also reading the Great Hunt adaptation comics, and it's quite horrible.
Okay.
There's a difference in quality there, and this one, Dark Horse is doing it right.
Would you recommend that Thornall avoid the comics until they've read the books?
Yes.
I mean, I would, but I haven't read all of the comics.
I haven't read Robin Hobb at all.
That's obviously what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
That explains everything.
One thing.
I'm doing it concurrently. I'm doing it together. So you can do it that way.
Oh, you haven't finished Farseer?
I have not, no.
But you're reading the book.
Really good because I watched
reading the book part.
Yeah, thanks.
You're reading the book part before you read the comic part.
No, I'm reading the comic, and then I'm reading a section in the book that corresponds to what's in the comic.
Oh, Jared.
And I'm contrasting and comparing them.
It's a new kind of immersion reading.
It is a new kind of immersion reading.
Listen to the audio at the same time.
It's actually fun. It's actually a lot of fun.
The smell version where you just sniff what happens in this, Farseer trilogy, somehow.
Here I have to agree with Ron. Like, if you're starting with the Wheel of Time, of course you're going to have a crap comic adaptation.
That's
But
probably true. Yeah.
To be fair, I've read 250 pages of The Wheel of Time, and that was enough for me.
I tried rereading it last year. I got through the end of volume 2, and I just wanted to kill myself. And I thought,
Joe.
no, it was fine. I just felt like it needed to be like a quarter the length. Like, oh, they're traveling again. Okay. I just have too much other stuff to read. I just can't afford the hours. If I didn't have a day job,
I would have pushed on. Like if my only thought about the first book was it's insanely Tolkien derivative. If that was the only criticism I had of it, I would have pushed on because I was like, yeah, it was written at that time and I'm sure he grows out of it and whatever.
Yes.
But it was also, I thought, really badly written. And then I was like, yeah, I have a harder time tolerating that. Like, if it's well-written Tolkien derivative, then, okay.
You like the music of the novel. You like the prose, the music of the prose, I see.
What?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but I mean, I enjoyed The Wheel of Time when they came out.
If I'd read them when they came out, I read Shannara back in the day and loved it.
I read the first 4 when they came out and I enjoyed them.
Yeah, and so I didn't experience like the slog that other people did because I was waiting for that next book, and so if I got a little bit of repetition and what have you, it didn't bother me as much, and I enjoyed them. They're not like in my top 10 or 20 or whatever of all time, but I enjoyed them.
There are fewer choices, right? If you want to read The Wheel of Time right now, you're not reading about 30 other books, right? And
which are super well written and not Tolkien derivative.
Guarantee, talk to any booktuber, you can find 30, like even just 30 indie books that are going to give you way more value than reading through The Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
And your hours are better spent. I think that's fundamentally sure.
Like this.
I was going to pick out
or this
or that.
I was going to pick this
or basically anything on my shelf.
This, which was quite. Look, I got the sprayed edges.
Ooh, oh, nice.
Ooh,
a few months ago, and I had not unboxed it, and then I did it for Britain's video.
Yeah, Liam, that's easy to do, Liam.
Really, Joe, that was just a really long ploy to promote your book. We get
it. My marketing degree, that PhD in marketing, it's coming. It's working for me. Call me Dr.
The good thing about that list, Liam, is it's endless. So you never actually have to get to the Wheel of Time. I had a brief moment, like the other Jared Henderson, right? I watched some of his videos. Super smart guy, really eloquent guy, philosophy degree, and like. Really, really interesting to listen to. And then he went on Dear Dr. Fantasy and he said his favorite fantasy series was The Wheel of Time. And I thought, I've only read 250 pages of it. And this really smart guy seems to love it. And I had an idea that after I do the Lord of the Rings vlog, I'll do a Wheel of Time vlog and I'll promise to read the first 2 books. Maybe after that, I'll step out.
I mean,
and then I started talking to people about it, and every time I talk to a fan, they convince me not to read it. And every time I talk to someone who's not a fan, they also convince me not to read it. Like all of the fans, the way they talk about the series, they're like, well, it gets started really slowly, and until you get to the 4th book, and then like the 8th to the 12th book are really horrible.
I mean,
it's great
to spread the disdain farther than Wheel of Time, because I feel like we're crapping on Wheel of Time a lot. That's how I feel about Brandon Sanderson. Like every single time someone talks about Brandon Sanderson's work, I'm like, you're not selling it at all.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying some fighting words. There's some people who. Really...
Oh no! Everyone knows that I am not a Brandon Sanderson fan.
I won't read Sanderson.
Yeah,
Steelheart. I'm done.
Yeah, you didn't like his superhero stuff, Joe, didn't you?
I read
I read it. I didn't like it.
2 or 3 Stormlight Archive books, and I think the third one I didn't finish.
But every writer should listen to his lectures on YouTube. I will stand. Yeah. I will die on that hill.
His lectures are great. Like listening to him talk about writing is amazing.
I like him. I watch his podcast where he just talks to Dan Wells for like 40 minutes about like cake and like food heists. There's a podcast. I love Brandon Sanderson. I listen to every episode of Writing Excuses he was on.
Super interesting guy.
I'm a fan of the guy, but not his books.
Yeah. Wheel of Time is a great starting point. See, this is one of the main things, and this was the weird thing about Jared Henderson, is he read it recently. Like, and he's not 20 or 16, you know?
Well,
like
I
can totally understand the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder.
Like, I also had a great time reading the Belgariad and Shannara and all of that when I was a teenager, you know?
I read John Norman's Gore books when I was a teenager.
I read Gore. Oh my God, they're so bad.
You read Gore. Oh my God, it's like low hanging fruit.
Did Jared happen to mention like if he had read any other fantasy, or is basically Wheel of Time all that he's read? Because
I think he's pretty new to fantasy. I mean, he certainly hasn't read as much as most of us. He's read some, but it didn't sound like he was a huge, like, dyed-in-the-wool since he was a teenager fantasy fan.
And it's accessible because it's so long. You get time to really dig into these alien concepts. Whereas if you were a new fantasy reader, you tried to read Malazan, you're screwed. You're just not gonna survive, right? So in that sense, Wheel of Time is a great like intro, not to a young reader in the sense of being young in age, but young to the genre. I think it's probably a wonderful intro.
Yeah, new to the
a lot of people, and they'll love it for that, and that's great.
I'm looking forward to, like, in a year or two. I want to drag Jared Henderson into a dark corner, and I'll just gift him Malazan, and say, dude, like, if you think everything you've read so far was good, you have to read these. It'll change your mind.
I think I remember him. I think he read Baker. Yeah, the
R. Scott Baker.
So that's
Aspect Emperor
I think he's read that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. He has read other fantasy stuff I've seen on his channel. But
okay. Yeah, Ron, I have warm and fuzzy nostalgic memories of the Belgariad, but
hi Tori.
As an adult, thinking clearly and looking back at it, I'm like, I know they're not good, or at least I know there's no way I would enjoy them now. You know.
Agreed.
Anyone read Lensman?
Lensman, yes.
Don't reread it.
No, Lensman was also totally stupid.
Don't do it. I did it. I tried rereading them like 2 years ago. Horrible mistake. I love them so much when I was 10.
Calling back a comment that Tharnell had posted about asking about the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. I had already mentioned in the chat that I read through Queen of the Damned in high school. I said I wasn't sure how I'd feel about them if I read them now, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like them because of all the reading experience I have under my belt. And I mean, just like with anything, regardless of whether it's Wheel of Time, Vampire Chronicles, Malazan, whatever, not only is each reader different, each person's taste is different, but the historical like baseline that you're working off of like either books in the genre or just in general the books that you have read and enjoyed in the past, that's gonna build up and kind of color your expectations and your reading experience. And
sure, Malazan ruined fantasy for me. Malazan completely ruined fantasy for me. Like, I think since I read Malazan, the only thing I've read that I haven't compared to Malazan is Hob.
Well, Baz Leg and American Gods did that for me. So,
excuse me, Spirit Cuts Through Water, Matt?
I haven't read that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't. It doesn't count in the same way. It's like I would never versus exactly. I would never compare spear to Malazan or Realm of the Underlings or anything like that, because it's like the killer standalone, no question, but it's like nothing like Malazan. It's just a totally different world.
Yeah. I'm just giving you crap.
I know. The Belgariad, fun, sarcastic dialogue, but not that much more. Yeah.
I would start with like First Law, maybe. Or
what do you mean start with?
Maybe that's maybe it's a little too dark for the kiddies.
Are you talking about like somebody's first fantasy book?
Yeah.
No, I mean, take this with a grain of salt because I haven't actually read First Law, but from what I've understood of it, it's subverting a lot of the tropes of the genre.
Yeah, I was about to say.
If you don't understand the tropes of the genre, I wonder how that might affect the experience negatively or positively. But I anticipate probably negatively.
I wouldn't call it a good example of like what's great about fantasy.
Like
because
Harry Potter?
of all the
anyone like Harry Potter here?
Sure. I read all the Harry Potters as an adult, and I enjoyed them.
I think a new fantasy reader should recreate the genre historically. Start with like maybe some John Carter or some Conan, just a little bit. Then maybe some Elric. No, John Carter or John Carter, Conan.
John Carter and Conan, and then
Tolkien,
Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
Lord of the Rings. Then a bunch of Eternal Champion, and then try Wheel of Time.
That's actually not bad. I mean, I think Mike Moorcock grew up reading John Carter.
I love that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's kind of sad. I mean, I was rereading Elric. I've started rereading Elric, and I did my Elric video, and it kind of made me sad that Elric isn't really a thing. I know that there's been a reread recently with Evie and Joanna and some people, but overall, it's just not really a talked about thing other than this guy.
Like Elric, or are you talking about
this guy? Talks about it all the time.
Liam's the guy.
Yeah, I was about to say Liam.
Liam's the guy.
Yeah, Liam's
a scholar.
Yeah. It makes me sad. Like,
love it.
Well, yeah, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser is some of the coolest fantasy ever written.
Also, the original Conan stories are very good.
Yeah.
But also, it'll make the tropes of what Evie was saying, right? The things that are subverting tropes, it doesn't work for you on that level if you don't know the tropes. So you got to learn the tropes when they're unironic, like Conan. And then if you don't read Conan first, Malazan's not going to work for you the same. Parts of Malazan won't work for you the same way because it's basically talking about Conan, right? And if you haven't read that,
like if you don't know Conan, you don't get Casa Orlong.
Right, exactly. Karsa makes no sense. And I'm not saying everyone's going to love Karsa regardless, but if you haven't read that stuff, then it's not going to work.
If you don't love Karsa, you can get off my channel.
I love Karsa. I love Karsa on our,
Karsa is the coolest character. And Liam, you're not all alone.
You're not alone, Liam. Yeah.
No. I mean,
meet Liam. I've been talking to you about Elric this entire time.
I do not talk about all of these things.
Was cool, okay.
I do not talk about all of these things constantly on my channel. But Liam, I read all of those things before you were born.
Yeah.
And again, when you were in diapers, and again when you were in high school, right? I've read all of the stuff you talk about all the time, and I love that you talk about it. I'm so happy.
Matt,
it blows my mind. It blows my mind. You look like you could actually literally be my child, age-wise, not because I know your mother. And I love that someone your age is talking about these things. Awesome. I think it is so fucking cool that you're out there talking about fucking Liber and Moorcock and all of these guys, Howard and all, I love all that stuff. You're not alone.
Matt, I think what I'm hearing is that you need to talk about sword and sorcery more. So
but the problem with me talking about sword and sorcery more is I have to reread it because I have a shit memory and I read all of these things before I was 25.
Also, there's a lot of it
like
that's
up to 25. I was reading tons of Liber and all of Elric multiple times and all of that, but I have a crap memory. So I have to reread it. I am rereading Elric, and I just did a video on Elric. And I want to, and I think as sort of a vague pinky swear promise, Tori and I wanted to read Liber together. Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser.
I think Tori would like Liber.
Oh yeah, no, I know she would. And we were going to read the Black Company together as well, which is much later and not sword and sorcery at all, and different thing. But so yeah, I just need to reread these things. But as I reread them, I will definitely surface them as much as I can in videos. Yeah,
I don't think I've read Elric since my bar mitzvah. 40 years since I read Elric.
Pre-tourism's
right. I never had a bar mitzvah, but similar timing. Long time ago.
Liam, I have a question for you. Please tell me in the chat. Have you read Behold the Man by Michael Moorcock? If not, no pressure, but also pressure. Would you like to buddy read it? Because I'm fascinated by this.
I know of it. Isn't that when he time travels and accidentally becomes Jesus?
Yep. No, he meets
as you do.
So
accidentally become
when
Jesus.
Carl Glowgower, time traveler and an unlikely messiah, or meet Carl Glowgower, time traveler and unlikely messiah, when he finds himself in Palestine in the year 29 AD, he is shocked to meet the man known as Jesus Christ, a drooling idiot hiding in the shadows of a carpenter's shop in Nazareth. By the way, reason for the season, I guess. But if Jesus is not capable of fulfilling his historical role, who will take his place? And can Carl reconcile the pressures of historical reality with his personal demons and fractured faith?
So what do you think Moorcock thought about Christianity?
Oh, he's probably very much... So yeah, I have this thing that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's reading like these like quasi-Christian like... I don't know, critiques or whatever, because this just came out. It's supposed to be like a sci-fi, but it's a woman that's Jesus Christ or whatever.
I have a Santa Claus story you could read.
I'm sorry?
I have a Christmas story. Superheroes for Save Christmas.
Okay, there you go. And then there's The Last Temptation of Jesus Christ, and by Nicholas, I cannot pronounce his last name. And then there's another one that I am totally blanking on. I'm sure I'll remember in 2 seconds, but there's another one. So need to prioritize those. That reminds me.
Man, I gotta run. Have a great holiday.
Thanks for dropping by.
Happy holiday.
Good to see you.
See you, Joe.
Guys.
Happy Hanukkah and all that.
Thank you.
No,
You are doing the right thing, poor person. I don't know your name because I've never seen you on the channel before. Poor person's book reviewer, but yeah, you're doing exactly the right thing.
I would recommend picking up the Del Rey versions of Robert E. Howard's stuff, because that's his work that's untouched by editors of later, like Els Brog de Camp, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, the stuff not diverted by the camp in the 50s. Yeah. With beautiful illustrations.
There is definitely, if you just read a whole bunch of Conan, there is definitely a Malazan character that will remind you of him, but in the end, that character is a lot deeper than Conan ever was, and you've got a few books to go. You get to him for the first time in House of Chains, but he is a fan favorite character, in spite of being a really horrible person in many ways. But he's well loved.
Discworld? I don't know. I haven't read Discworld, so I don't know.
Are we older lemons doing a disservice because we've read all this stuff way back and are not talking about it now? Maybe. I mean, like, literally for me, the only reason I don't talk about it is I don't remember it well enough, and I would have to reread it. And I have so many things on my reading list. This year, actually, I was thinking about it. I was looking at all the books I read. This year was more than 50% rereads for me.
Wow.
Like, it was old stuff that I love. I got back into Amber. I got back into Elric. What else did I reread? A lot of older stuff and all of the Realm of the Elderlings is rereads for me. Even Lone Wolf and Cub, the manga I'm reading, is a reread for me. Lots of rereading, but I would need to reread. The good thing about rereading books like these older books is they're like this thick.
Yeah.
Most of them are tiny. Like this book over here.
I did a lot of catch-up reading.
This monster. This is 10 books. It's all of the Amber books in one, and each of the Amber books averages out at 120 pages per book because this is
That's a
1,200
novella.
pages. Yeah, exactly. They're tiny. And I decided to get back into Amber. I mean, like Amber and Elric and also the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser books, they're great to stick in between things like this because you can read them in a day or 2 days. Like if you've got a weekend with not too much to do, you can read an Amber book easy, you know. So I am, Angela, working on rereading and talking about these things. I want to, when I finish the first 5 Amber books, the Corwin Amber books, I want to do a video a bit deeper and longer about Amber and why everyone should fucking read it because it's so good.
Yeah,
And so foundational and influential on so many other things. If you've read Malazan, I don't think there would be a deck of dragons without Amber. Amber is where the deck of dragons comes from.
Sure. Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I did a lot of catch-up reading this year. That tends to happen when you read comics. Like I caught up with Saga, I caught up with Black Hammer.
Saga's awesome.
I caught up with not really Descender. I still need to finish Descender. But
yeah. I read a Le
yeah,
Guin
Saga,
novel,
man. I just got the new volume on Friday, so I'm looking forward to reading that next week.
The hardbound ones?
No, just the volumes, the paperbacks.
Okay.
Because
Right.
I've
got
gone too deep. I don't want to get the compendium now.
I've got the three hardbacks, which is all of the issues up to the break. And then since the break, I've got a subscription. So I'm getting the individual issues. Somebody, wait a sec. I need to scroll back. Somebody said something that I wanted to bring on screen because it was interesting.
Yeah, I want to do a couple more things on my channel. Like I want to do like character analysis and
Liam,
Liam.
the second Chronicles. A lot of people say they're not as good, but I think that's because people liked Corwin a lot, and Corwin's hardly in them. They're interesting because they revolve around Corwin's son Merlin. And the thing I thought was really interesting about them is they bring together computers and magic. Like Corwin's son Merlin is a computer programmer, and he's building a magic computer, which is an interesting idea. Basically, a Trump computer. If you know what Trumps are, you know what I mean. And I thought that was pretty. I thought that was pretty cool.
You read this, Matt?
Yes, but also a long time ago, and I don't remember it that well. But
I just read it, so it was a blast.
Yeah,
it was a blast.
Stars My Destination is one of the big classics.
Classic, yeah. And I just finished Hellboy in Love.
Oh, I've got
that was fun.
I haven't got Hellboy in Love. I was just going to say I've got that, but I've got Hellboy in Hell. But yeah, that's something very different.
Hellboy in Hell is fantastic.
Yes,
like
very good. Yeah. Good stuff. Hellboy.
So atmospheric too.
Yeah, the second 5 Amber books, I would say they're just as good. I certainly enjoyed them as much. Thornall, if you're a Hellboy fan, have you seen my Hellboy video? I talk a lot about Hellboy in that video.
I was about to say he made a whole video.
I made a whole video. As a matter of fact,
I basically in my suggested comics, when I got to Hellboy, I basically just referenced Matt's video and was like, just go watch that. You'll get what you need.
Yeah, Hellboy, Mike Mignola. For me, today, oh man, today, I saw a comment on Twitter from Bryce shelf-centered. And somebody, I think Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, was saying something about Sandman, the comic. And Bryce was like, "Oh, I'm loving it on the audio." And I was like, "Bryce, you fucking idiot. You can't audiobook a comic.
Yeah, I know.
Please don't. Please don't." I mean, it is a really good story, and I'm sure on an audiobook it sounds really good. And
and the voice actors they got, like Taron
production
Egerton as
may
John
be great,
Constantine,
and
was
all
fantastic.
the narrators may be awesome, but it's a comic. Like, you're missing at least 50% if you're not looking at the beautiful, amazing art that is in Sandman. You know, it's just a beautifully drawn comic all the way through. And I'm such a visual person, and I'm a designer, so I get so into
the Charles Vest,
visual.
Vest issues are just so beautiful.
Yeah,
so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the
so much
Shakespeare
of it.
issues because I'm a normie, I guess, but they're so good.
They are good, whether that's normie or not.
The only comic that's won a World Fantasy Award too. It's insane. I think it is.
I mean, that's why I just bought this. Yeah, I want to reread the whole thing in beautiful editions, and these are really stunning.
You can get
they're read the Gloom next year.
They're with table only kind of books, though.
You can get arthritis with that.
Yeah. No, I could kill my cat if I dropped it. You know, I got to be careful.
Don't do that.
Speaking of cats, did I miss the Fitz appearance earlier in the stream?
Where is Fitz? No, Fitz was sleeping over there, and now she's sleeping over there. She's.
Has she gotten anything for the holidays?
I fed her. She should be thankful.
Boo. You're terrible.
Actually, you know what she got? Last night I had a couple of friends over and we exchanged some gifts. And there was one of those little sort of like round pre-made ribbon bow kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
The glue-on ones. And that was on one of the gifts. And I pulled that off and threw it on the ground for her, and she was ecstatic. She played with that thing for half an hour straight. And yeah. Sandman on audio. Yeah, I need to have a word with Bryce.
Have I mentioned I enjoy the serial killer convention from the Sandman?
You have. You even mentioned it already in this stream.
No, I'm
But yes, it is really, really good. Any clues about Operation Sturmvampir under Berlin? I have no idea what you're talking about.
The hell was that?
I don't know. Tell us what that was, Dornall.
It was like an act. It was like a
By
weird
the way,
accent. Are you speaking Middle English?
Anybody who that's German. Anybody who knows the channel and knows the Grimoire Discord and knows my channel on the Grimoire Discord. For example, Tornall, if you wanted to actually join us on screen and tell us what the fuck you're talking about, you can go to my channel and you can join on screen. There's a link there. Anyone can join. It's not by invitation only. I just make the link available every week on my channel, and everybody who feels like it is invited to join. Don't have to be a booktuber. In fact, this stream started with just me and Vero, who is one of the commenters, viewers on my channel, and she's come on the stream a couple of times now. Yeah.
I know posted this today.
The audio was included on Audible. Yeah, I can understand, like you said, was I can understand maybe listening to it after you've read it,
or as you're looking at it, maybe,
or as you're looking at it, like immersion reading.
Yeah,
but you've got to see. You've got to see it. Oh yeah, Sturmvampir was a secret project in Hellboy. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the arc when they run into the vampires and Hellboy runs into that really old vampire and he just starts complaining at him like, I warned my boy about getting with that Nazi lady. It's hilarious.
Yeah, Hellboy is still going strong. It's interesting because Hellboy is now what Grendel by Matt Wagner was years ago.
Sure.
So like a core idea where he started it, he wrote it, he drew it, he created this idea, and then he gave it to other artists. And lots of people have done Grendel stories, and lots of people now are doing Hellboy stories. And to me, like any Hellboy story that Mignola didn't draw, I'm just not interested. Some of them are good, but
Still
like
pretty good. Yeah.
no, some of them are really good. I know
Pretty
that
good.
some of them are really good,
Yeah.
but to me, Hellboy is Mignola. Like it's his art, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just scrolling back.
Sorry, I always pronounce it Mignola. It's Mignola.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to get a definitive like how he pronounces it himself, but I couldn't find one yet. But I've heard a lot of people in the industry call him like Mignola.
Have you watched the cartoon
But I'm not
of
sure.
Amazing Screw-On Head?
I have not.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's
Okay.
hilarious.
I haven't read the comic either, but I've heard it's good.
You can find it on YouTube. It's
fun, yeah.
hilarious.
It's a fun comic. Yeah. It's good.
Very good.
Oh. Well, I should say I did start my YouTube channel because I wanted to cover more lesser known books. Now, have I been doing a good job? Well, like I said in the comment, I don't know. But it's the thought that counts, I think.
Dornall, the thing, and I said this, I gushed about Mignola's artwork in my video. The thing about Mignola is he manages better than anyone I've ever seen to somehow make complete flat black suggestive of something. Like the way he does his composition and the colors and the things that you can see that aren't just black suggest so much of what's in the black. Frank Miller's style early on, this was Frank Miller.
Oh God! Don't get me started on Frank Miller. Ugh.
Early on, this was Frank Miller, right? And that is
good stuff.
super cool. I love his old style, right? And then he started, to me, it seems like started copying Mignola, and he doesn't do it very well. He just doesn't do it very well. Like Frank Miller doing Sin City, it just looked like a lot of flat black pages. And Mignola somehow makes a page that's 70% black still suggests something, you know? It's
it's
really, really good.
Paneling, I think. Like,
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like The Corpse, like the paneling in that story is so like, I know that's kind of, everyone loves The Corpse, but I mean, it's great.
The Corpse is amazing. Yeah, The Corpse.
Or even
Corpse is
Hellboy
amazing.
in Hell, if you want like a deeper cut. Man, the paneling in that is so good.
Yeah. Hellboy in Africa, and I don't know if I've actually seen that one. I'm trying to remember if it's in, because to me, basically, the Hellboy is the library editions, which is the whole main story of Hellboy, plus Hellboy in Hell, and some of them collect some of the short stories. But there are so many of them that, like, I definitely have not seen all of them.
All right. Hey, I got to run, guys. So
Merry Christmas.
Glad I was able to drop in.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, talk. Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Yeah, see you, Jared. I'm kind of winding down, to be honest, because it's almost midnight here. So maybe that's also a good point to call it.
Perhaps I'll get you on, Matt, if I ever do a Hellboy discussion type of video, because
Sure.
you have a lot of thoughts on Hellboy.
I love talking about Hellboy, especially the art.
Yeah.
I am a fan.
Oh, I'm sure there will be much to say about the artwork.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Christmas though is I can't believe it's already here, you know.
Yeah, this year was kind of insanely long and short at the same time somehow.
I agree.
You know,
It's kind of weird.
kind of cutting back to Hellboy real quick. Mignola really likes apes for some reason.
He does.
One of my favorite Hellboy moments, and I know this is probably a fan favorite, but it's when him and Abe Sapien walk into the castle and that monkey shows up, and then Hellboy's like, "Oh shit, he's got a gun!" and he just starts shooting him. Great stuff. I love it.
Apes and boars. He
Yes.
likes. Liam, yes, you should be reading.
He did make me want to try what's that guy's name? Lavia Tidhar. I probably butchered that. I apologize, but
Levi Tidar.
Livy Tidhar, thank you.
I actually, based on the last Sunday pub and Raf talking about Lavi Tadar, I got By Force Alone because I'm an Arthur nerd, and I will see when I get to it, but I've got it on my shelf now at least. Yeah.
I have a friend named Alan who really likes that book. So
Yeah. Cool, guys. Thank you for joining me. I am very pleasantly surprised that it was such a lively chat. I was expecting Christmas Eve. Everyone's got other things to do, got places to be, and people to be with. And
generally would, but not this year.
No, it's been excellent and very nice Christmas surprise. It's almost a Christmas miracle, you could say. Very, very nice. Liam's reading By Force Alone soon. Cool. Thank you all. Thank you, Heidi, for being, I think, in all of my Sunday pubs so far. I was actually, I said it earlier, I just today cut the video for my thoughts on 2023 and plans for 2024. And one of the biggest successes since I got back on BookTube, one of the things I'm most happy about and I enjoy the most, and I want to keep doing the most, is exactly this. The Sunday pubs are awesome. I love having, this stream started with Vero, who's a viewer, not a booktuber. I think it's extremely cool having these just casual hang out, talk about anything. Authors stop by, booktubers stop by, people who are not authors and booktubers stop by, and I love it. So I'm definitely going to keep doing these. Do not worry about that. We're book nerds. Zin, yeah, but you most people have families at least. No matter how nerdy they are. I do not. I don't have a family. Not in Germany anyway. And I don't have much family left anywhere. So
well, that's sad,
yeah.
Matt.
Is it? It's just my life. I mean, I live in Germany.
Don't you guys believe in reincarnation in Buddhism?
Yes, and how is that in any way related to what I just said?
Well, dead. Maybe that might comfort you, and I don't know. I was trying to make you feel better.
I wasn't feeling bad. That's what I'm saying. You're the one who said it was sad. I don't feel bad about it. I just don't really care that much about Christmas. And
it's just another day.
For me, it's
and
just another day.
Off, and I get paid for the day off. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Christmas is a time when I have some time off. That's the main thing Christmas means to me, because I'm not a Christian and I don't have kids to get into the Christmas spirit and all of that. I'm just, whatever, Also,
I sense three spirits visiting you in your near future.
Okay. I will always have streams at European time, because I have to organize everything that I do, because Americans can't really take part if it's not on a weekend. So I do it in the evenings, European time, and Americans can join in the afternoons. So all of my things are evening weekend stuff. So you're welcome to join anytime. Okay, so Zin does have family, but that's tomorrow. Yeah, it depends on where you are. In Germany, it's today. Like Germans do the really big Christmas thing on Christmas Eve in the evening, as opposed to Americans who do it on the 25th in the morning. And I think English also do it 25th in the morning. But I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you all for joining in the chat and on the screen. It has been a pleasure and an honor. And I will see you next Sunday. Bye.
Until next time.